Hey, welcome to Log Time Podcast. This week we're talking about the end of the winter 2018 season, what we ended up finishing, as well as a few others we wanted to complete. We had a lot of fun on this one, and once it gets into the thick of it, we had a blast and managed to laugh a lot during this one. So I hope you enjoy as we talk about some comfy shows, as well as some shows that made us cry several times before the end of the season. Let's get into it.
So here's the thing. The way that I was approaching Violet Evergarden in this particular context was that from the start, I had no thoughts that she would have been a robot. Because given the time period and the technology and everything that had been established so far, there did not seem to be any indication that we were working with automata here. Like, I just thought it was a prosthesis. Never thought she was a robot. I want to hear your reasoned conclusion as to how you got to that she was a robot, because I'm curious.
Okay.
Not because I think that it's a stupid opinion to have, because I don't. I'm just curious as to how you got there. Because I clearly was on a different one. What?
I only wrote down my math answers. I didn't actually show my work for them.
But I swear to Christ. Okay,
so here's the thing, and it's probably the reason why apparently people like Bobda and several others for a long time thought that she was a robot. So I gorged myself on all of the media that was coming out before the show came out. And in the media that came out, it seemed, at least in the first few teaser trailers, that we see these prostheses, we see the prosthetic arms, but we don't have a reason for it because it's just a teaser trailer. So everyone's like, oh, it's like robotic arms. They're like, oh, is she a robot? But in the descriptions that we got leading into this, they always called her a doll or anything like that. And so people just, before the show ever came out, were like, oh, okay, so it's about a robot. Like, long before we ever got any first episode for the show, that was something that I think a lot of people in the community were like, it's a robot show.
Okay. Yeah. See, that lines up with me now, because I essentially took a vow of not hearing anything about this show beforehand.
Yes.
I actively avoided anything that I could hear about this show.
And I will say...
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
I will say, I did,
from that context,
for the first few episodes, really think that she was, or I was very confused about it, actually, because even in the first episode, she's bleeding blood, red blood, and so I was like, because they have the callbacks to like her in the war and stuff, so I was like, well, I'm confused. Is she supposed to be a robot or not? And then you have this emotionless demeanor, and then you have the prosthetics that are way too advanced for the current time period. It is a fantasy, so they can get away with it. So I was a little confused. And I was thinking, and so for a while I was thinking, well, maybe she's like a unique one unto herself or something. But by like the second or third episode, I was like, no, she's clearly not a robot. She's just robotic in her demeanor when she first starts off, and then she learns human emotion, empathy, and all these things that were stunted in her due to her traumatic past. So, like, I got it. And I'm surprised that other people in the community did not, because it's kind of obvious after a while. They even say it in the show. They're like they
make a point of that.
They make a point of it on multiple occasions. They're like, is she a robot? Is she just a doll, like a literal doll? And then she's like, no, I am a human. Or somebody stands up for her and says, no, she is a fucking human. You do not call her that. Like,
correct. Yes.
So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that people up until the final episode thought that she was a robot.
Yeah, I mean, these tweets just came out like today. So
I haven't read them. So as far as because we totally called out Bobda, and I feel shady because I don't know what he said. What did he actually say? And I'm not gonna like shit on him or anything like that.
Well, the tweet says, because it's actually kind of interesting, because when I grabbed this tweet, I couldn't actually see what he was replying to, because the account was protected / locked. So,
interesting.
But then he said something like, this plus the arms made me initially assume Violet was an actual robot, because if she's not, then what the hell is any of this?
Apparently he missed the entire point of the show. I feel I'm sure once he does an arc, the dude's real fucking smart. So I'm sure like if he has not already made a like article talking about in retrospect of the show, I'm sure that he'll delve into it and be like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. I totally get you.
Pretty sure he dropped it.
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he actually dropped the show.
Why?
I'm not 100%, but
like
don't quote me on that. But
if the tweets that we were looking at are any indication, but
Okay.
anyway, doesn't that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
A lot of folks in the community at large,
Yeah.
or at least from a good smattering of tweets, it does seem to indicate that. And yeah, I'm a little confused as to how you would get to that conclusion. But hey, we're not here to get into any of that.
oh yeah, he did actually drop the show. Sorry for the segue.
It's all good.
He says, because asking me to believe she's a robot is a lot easier than asking me to believe she's a convincing human character. That is what this tweet says.
I'm insulted in defense of the show.
Oh God! All right, we can't do this.
Oh god, this is just gonna be a podcast slamming tweets.
No. I'm not gonna slam him. And if that's his personal opinion, that's his personal opinion. I'm not gonna be able to necessarily change that. In defense of the show, I would say that I think the show does an incredible job if you give it patience, which I know that was a difficult thing for a lot of people, and I totally understand why. It's a very slow burn, like Hyoka slow. And not everybody can get into that with a character who is less emotive than the main character in Hyoka tried to be.
Yeah, correct.
I totally get that people can just be like, I don't know if I'm really into this. At the same time, as someone who did watch the entire show, the show explains itself very well about what's going on, and from a psychological standpoint, it makes sense. And I was absolutely invested in the character because of that.
And I think the thing to me specifically is that, I guess this kind of ties into some discussions that we've had just in the past in general about like empathic responses to shows and things of this nature. And so for me, as someone who does respond on a much more like kind of emotional level to shows in this particular regard, like it is, I definitely find myself very much relating to these things and very much feeling the kinds of heartstring tugs that they're wanting to, often anyway. Not like every single one they pull out, like, I'm not just gonna like cry at the drop of a hat or something, but like, yeah, to me, there was a very clear developmental arc. And sure, yeah, like Violet is at the start a very difficult to believe human character. By the end, there's a lot of things that I'm still like, I mean, youch, I do have to suspend my disbelief a bit. But at the same time, it's like you say, there is a great deal of explanation that goes into explaining why Violet is the way she is. And again, ultimately, it's a fantasy. It doesn't have to all totally make sense. It doesn't have to be ironclad. But it does work to try to make it as, workable as it can be.
Yeah, and I will definitely say, as far as KyoAni goes, I think that they definitely did their research as far as their main character is. Because, like, what we see and how the main character acts and behaves is relatively realistic to how somebody would behave that is emotionally stunted due to being a war child or due to maybe even a developmental issue such as, I think it's considered a developmental issue. I don't want to insult anybody, but like compared to just different different mental issues that people can have, which can cause them to have difficulties in expressing themselves and also being able to understand emotional levels to people. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all very realistic. I even did like a fucking deep dive into this to make sure, and I'm not an expert on it, but everything, at least for me, checked out. From secondhand information that I've received from other people who are brothers and sisters or relatives of people with developmental issues or mental issues similar to this. as well as my own experience talking to people that I know that have PTSD. I'm like, this all checks out. The things that she experiences, the things that she goes through, and the issues that she has, to me, that all seemed completely fine. And I can understand that maybe somebody might not necessarily understand that. And it is going to be very hard to to have a connection to a character that is not able to emote or show things emotionally as other characters do. But at the same time, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing about the show, because that's kind of what the show's all about. Like, it's not supposed to be a show where you immediately just, I got this character and I'm good. It's supposed to be that you have to kind of like realize who this character is, and then see the progression of this character as they get to their who they are by the end of it.
Sure, yeah.
And I enjoyed that, and I can understand why other people might not. But at the same time, I do not think that it makes it a bad show, and I feel like it may be unfair to the show if people had dropped it early, because I think once you start hitting like episode 6, especially 7, 8, and 9, I think that anybody that had gone on to at least that point would probably understand this show, and would be, and I think most would, at least, even if they weren't 100% on for it, even if they weren't entirely sold on it, I think they would at least understand what the show is trying to do. But I feel like a lot of people dropped it before then.
And I mean, like, fairness to a show is kind of a very subjective thing as it is, but I get what you're aiming at, and I can kind of agree in that sense. But
yeah, I feel like 7 to 10 is definitely the strongest point of the show, and that's just me. But
yeah.
A lot of people weren't really keen on the last couple episodes for a variety of reasons, but it seems like people, like from the tweets that I've seen just on glance, it seems that people have this issue with Violet Evergarden kind of relating to some of the things we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's kind of a slow burn, like you said, but another issue that it kind of has, and I had a lot of problems with this as well, is that there's a lot of like side story segments that are very good of themselves. There's absolutely, like, every single side story is amazing. Like, it floors me every single time.
They're fantastic, yeah.
But then there's also like a lot of these bits in the middle of these episodes where it kind of just feels like nothing is happening. There's and I understand that's kind of like the point of the slow burn show. I kind of get that. But I think a lot of people get I don't want to say get caught up in it, but I think it's very easy to go into the show thinking she's going to have a developmental arc, and then you're just waiting for it, and then you're like, okay, but what does this have to do with anything, or what does that have to do with anything, as you're watching these episode vignettes sort of thing.
So let me ask you a question, because I kind of feel like we could relate this to much earlier KyoAni work. So you remember way back in the day, Haruhi had a bunch of different ways in which people viewed it.
Oh yeah,
we had an argument forever ago in a podcast that doesn't exist anymore for good reasons. There was
it does exist though. It's there.
Oh shit. There was a discussion that we had, because you and I, Matt, we watched Haruhi in completely different ways. I watched it in the way I don't remember what the name of it, because they were named after the different characters in the show. But I watched it in the way that, like, the main first book of the series was its own collected 1 through, I think, 6. 1 through
you watched it in, I think, DVD order or Blu-ray order.
That's
or
right.
something.
That's right. I did watch it in DVD order because it started with episode 0, and I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, so that's DVD order.
That was, I don't. It took a lot to get to the end and suddenly see the twist, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not what this show's about. I was like, wow, this is a really shitty show. And then I was like, oh no, wait, they're making a shitty movie. That's what it is. No, so yeah, but like it goes through the whole arc that is the first book, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, just no cuts in between, and this is just what it is. And then it has its one-offs after the fact. And I said that I really enjoyed that, because I didn't like that they broke up the story. And it's right. Interesting to me because you would argue that you were actually for breaking up the story, because I don't remember your reasoning for it, but wasn't it just something like because it made it a lot more like how crazy the actual universe and everything was going on is?
It's kind of something like that. So, for reference, I watched it in broadcast order, and I think that one of the reasons that I enjoy watching it in broadcast order, because that's how I always have chosen to watch the show, even when I've rewatched it, is because when you do it in the other order, it puts all of the story at the forefront, singles it out, and then it's kind of like, well, what's the point of the rest of this? Like, there's kind of like smaller points that can be made, but there's no arc to it. There's no structure. You basically have ruined the structure by putting it in a structured format. It kind of doesn't make much sense, but in broadcast order, it is because it's crazy. It's all over the place. It jumps, and the conclusion feels more impactful when it's at the end because you've seen all this crazy shit, and it's all been broken up, and you feel disoriented, kind of thing.
And I feel like maybe it's because it was the first order that I saw, and there's probably a multitude of other reasons why I would still argue the point against you that I liked Haruhi in the way that I watched it compared to the way that you watched it. But I think to each its own as far as Haruhi is concerned. And we could argue that point, but that's not Violet Evergarden. The funny thing, then, the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because this is me being a hypocrite. I'm actually agreeing with you when it comes to Violet Evergarden. Is that, like, yes, you have these individual vignettes, but I feel like the reason why it works in Violet Evergarden, in that I feel like your basically broadcast order for Violet Evergarden, in which the story is broken up and you have individual vignettes in between. I feel like the reason why it works is because you have these small little bits and pieces that you see a progression of events. Within this episode that is its own self-contained story, you also see a little bit of like what happened in the past 2 episodes, or you might see a character that you saw in the past 2 episodes, and so the story still fits and knits itself together. While still having these nice little self-contained moments. Right. And I also think it works very well because the big turn for the series in which I think it was episodes like 5, 6. No, it was episodes 6, 7, 8, 9.
Well, which part are you talking about?
Specifically when
like when she realizes that she's quote unquote burning.
She when she realizes that she is quote unquote burning, and also that the major might still be alive.
Yeah, that's definitely in 7 or 8 territory.
Okay, yeah, it was 7, 8, 9 then.
Yep.
The big reason why I feel like that matters is that none of that would be nearly as impactful if we had just taken those 3 episodes and then like the first 2 and then just like merged them together. Because there's no in-between, so we have no reason to care for any of the side characters, to understand how far she had come since the first episode. And right. We would have no reason to actually feel more for her as she's dealing with her PTSD. So I feel like that's why it works so well for Violet Evergarden. Yes, it is a bit of a drag to like expect more story and then get a vignette. But the story wouldn't feel as impactful if we didn't have the vignettes that showed how our main character has changed.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because I definitely feel as though, like you said, Matt, those side stories pretty consistently floored me. They were incredible.
Fucking solid.
The playwright dealing with the grief of the loss of his daughter. Oh my god.
Oh my god, I cried at the end of every episode for like 4 episodes in a row.
Multiple times.
I was like, oh my god.
And the student at the observatory.
Oh my god.
They were all really good. And so even though, yeah, we technically didn't get a whole lot of very explicit development of Violet's character, like it was not like a set down like, hey, so Violet, what'd you learn today? Like, we didn't get those kind of things going there, but, you know, at the same time, Kyle, it's like you say, it without this sort of build to it, it wouldn't be anywhere near as impactful. And we do see Violet, you know, very slowly changing bit by bit
very slowly
over
changing.
time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we are getting vignettes. We are not getting these hard-hitting, oh, here's Violet learning to love kind of shit. And in that sense, I'm kind of glad that that's how this worked out, because I feel as though in a lot of ways, if we had these much more direct scenes and things where, you know, Violet is overcome with these emotions, and it's like a whole half the episode like, oh God, what is happening inside of me? What are these feelings? Like, it feels as though...
That would be corny as shit.
Yeah, it would have been corny as fuck, and I would have hated it. Like, it actually gives this idea that, you know, Violet, this person who internalizes so many things and is so awkward and difficult in working through these ideas, she is taking her time trying to understand what this shit is. And it is very clear in how it manifests through this time. So personally, yeah, I get why it might not be for everyone, but I think that were it structured any other way, it would not have anywhere near the impact and emotional payoff that it does by the end of the series. Or even by the midway point, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wowzers, guys.
I think the biggest disservice to this show that ever happened is the hype that built up. Because had there been not nearly as much hype, people would not have had this mindset that it will be a 100% every episode story driven to an end. And I think people would not have sought out the book as much, read directly into the book, and then gotten pissed at all the anime original vignettes. And I think, and honestly, I feel like that's just, it's two different mediums and they want to do it a different way. And I don't necessarily blame them, because the vignettes that are anime original, of the ones that I know that are, which I don't know that many, but ones that I do, they're fantastic. I love them. And I feel like had the hype not been so high, people would not have expected the second coming out of this show.
I mean, and hype is kind of just the death of a lot of things. Anyway, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was just going to say 2 points on that. One, I'll talk about this more in a minute. The light novel is actually very different from the anime, just for reference.
Yes, it is.
There's
a big difference.
So, we'll talk about that in a minute. Number 2 is a more pressing point, which is the director or a writer or some staff from the show, I don't remember who, but they explicitly said, like, in the first couple episodes that, this is going to be a slow story. Like,
that was the director. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an interview that came out early on, and they were like, just, wait, just give it a bit.
Yeah. He was like, just trust me. I'm going to try and do justice to the story, but it is going to be a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, I guess people should have realized, but
I think
should have. But...
I think it. I also had to, at least for me personally, because I did ride the hype train definitely for this one, but I always, like, as it's coming out, I then try to, like, knock that down a little bit for myself personally, so I don't overhype myself as best as I can. It's a little hard, but one of the things that I had to do is I kind of had to turn a mental switch after a couple episodes. Is that I expected this to be one of those shows in which, like, it's progression every single episode. Let's go. And I had this weird thought, and it's not an accurate thought, but I had this weird thought after a couple of episodes. I think it was after, like, episode 3 or 4. I was like, oh, this is kind of like Cowboy Bebop, in the sense that it is a lot of separate. Each episode is a dissection of a specific thing. In the case of Cowboy Bebop, it was usually taking a specific genre and dissecting what can we do with this and what kind of interesting story can we make. In the sense of Violet Evergarden, it's a different way of loving someone. Like, we have familial love, and then we have the love of a dog, like, and then we dissect that a little bit more individually. We have the love of a brother and a sister who were torn apart from war, and it's just this family that loves each other and they don't know how to express that. And then you have the love of a father who's lost his daughter, and then you have the love of a daughter who's losing her mother to cancer or some undisclosed illness. And it's a dissection of each one of these, and we see Violet start to understand more and more about emotions and the emotions that people go through from dealing with each of these individual things. And so for me, I was like, I had to turn on a mental flip in that we will not get progression every single episode. Similar to Cowboy Bebop, not every episode was about Spike going off and chasing down a whole bunch of mobsters that want him dead and all this shit. But we did get that every now and then throughout the show. And so it felt like there was sort of an overarching idea. But in Violet Evergarden, I felt like, unlike Cowboy Bebop, they did connect it a lot more than Cowboy Bebop. But I had to kind of tailor myself back a little bit and flip a mental switch and be like, oh, no, we are going to have vignettes. And I just have to get used to that because there is going to be a payoff. And there was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I just had to think about it differently, and I don't know if everybody had the patience to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's and I kind of understand like the viewpoint that some of these people are coming from. Like, I mean, it's kind of hard to go into a show thinking one thing and then trying to like change your mindset and then come up with something different.
I mean, movies get shit bombed all the time because of that very exact same reason. They get hyped up for it. They expect it to be a specific thing, and when it's not, they hate it. And it's not necessarily the movie's fault because most of the time it's like the movie's just the movie, and I wouldn't necessarily say that that's always the audience's fault either. There was just a miscommunication.
Yeah, there's any number of factors that can really lead to this oversaturation of hype and this misperception of what something is looking to be. But often, it is very much not necessarily the fault of the work itself, which is massively unfortunate, especially when you have a case like this where there are so many things that have suffered due to a massive amount of overhype and also due to oversight on folks that have kind of overlooked indicators like interviews with the director, things like that.
Which makes me interested because the show is technically not out in everywhere. So I'm interested that
it is now.
Is it out?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
up on Netflix now?
It's out on Netflix right now.
Okay.
Well, holy
this
shit.
makes me interested because what I was going to ask is I'm wondering how the reception will be for all of the people who did not watch it as it was coming out, who will watch it now for the first time and may or may not have heard about all of this discussion going on beforehand because they didn't want to spoil it for themselves, or may not have even seen all the hype for it. Maybe they just turn on their Netflix and they're like, oh, this is an anime I didn't hear about, and they sit down and watch it. I'm interested to see how those people feel about it.
I kind of already looked through the Violet Evergarden tweet thingy. The search bar. I guess that's what it's called. So I typed in just Violet Evergarden just to kind of see what people were saying. Mm-hmm. And it seems like a lot of people really like the show. Like
it's a good show.
Like, I mean,
and that's my personal opinion. I understand that, but like, to be honest, I was like, I genuinely feel like it wouldn't just be me that would say that this is a good show.
I mean, I think it's a good show too. I think that it's definitely slow, but
yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
But it definitely it creates a barrier for sure. But it's a good show. But what I'm kind of interested about is it goes back to my other point of the light novel being completely different. I don't know. You said something earlier that kind of made me interested. You're talking about people reading the light novel as the show, with the hype,
The only thing that I heard about that, and it wasn't much, is that there were people that had gotten excited about the show coming out. And it may have been that they heard that they had already read it whenever it was announced that this was the winner for KyoAni's. I don't remember what the actual competition was called.
It was their own light novel competition they hold every year. That's that one.
And I don't know if they read it then. I don't know if they read it as the hype was coming out, but I do think that it was a situation in which they're like, the show is coming out, let me read the source material. And I feel like, not that I feel like, I had heard, it wasn't from many sources, so take that with a grain of salt, but I heard from like one or two people on Twitter that they did not enjoy the show because it was not the book, and they were very upset about that.
It's actually kind of funny because I remember Frogkun making a tweet about it when the show first started. He's like, they read it, and I was like, or they were like, not I was like, but they basically said that the show is different from the novel, in a good way. And
that's not what I expected. The second part of that sentence is not at all what I expected.
yeah, and it was a very controversial tweet when it came out because a lot of people didn't like the show. That's when everyone was realizing the hype was kind of there, and people were realizing it was a slow show. All that stuff was going.
You also have those book enthusiasts that say, "How fucking dare you say that it's better than the book?"
Oh my god, let's not go there. I kind of did a little bit of digging into the light novel. I didn't read any of it. But from what I've heard that from people that have read it is that, first of all, the anime starts, like, the volume 1 starts on, like, where episode 3 is. Or something. Like, it doesn't actually start at the beginning. Most of that is anime original. Like, all the first couple episodes.
Well,
really?
Episode 2 is completely anime original.
Oh my
Episode
gosh.
1 does have some good points to it, but also from like almost the start, spoiler alert, it's revealed to Violet that Gilbert's dead.
Oh yeah, so light novel spoilers.
Hey,
I said spoilers. So.
Let me throw something out for y'all, and this is going to be a major spoiler, and we're gonna get into
major
the ending.
Spoiler. Is this a joke? Is this a military joke?
It was not intended to be one. Spoiler. So we are to assume, even at the end of this ending, and we will talk about the ending, that Major's dead. That's not changing. He's dead. Right.
What? Wait. What do you mean?
That is.
Is that you asking? Is that a fact, or is that you saying it is a fact?
I'm sorry. It was supposed to be a question mark at the end.
See,
we're not 100% sure on that.
No,
because
fucking shit.
And okay, do you care about light novel spoilers?
Me personally, no. Anybody in the audience
I already
that might
know
be
this
listening
light novel
to this,
spoiler, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I want to delve into this because even if I read the book, I've watched the series and I know that they're not going to be the same, but I feel like there are going to be some similarities. So I'm already spoiling some aspects to me. So for anybody listening, just mute us for a second. But like, yeah, what's going on?
Mute yourself too.
Shut up! Just shut up.
Take a seat.
Sit down, Mr. Jones.
So I was reading on Reddit regarding the ending. Apparently, in the light novel, this is not how that ending is supposed to work at all. Because there's a couple different reasons. One, Major's not actually dead. And two, apparently, everyone lied to Violet and said that he was dead, but he wasn't actually dead. So
to be fair, he had been MIA for a very long time.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like everyone very consciously
knew he was alive and didn't tell her.
Okay, so yeah, that's a big difference.
That's a
big old difference.
This is my personal opinion. That's shit better. Ending.
That's not an ending, though. I mean, the novel's still going. But...
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's still.
I like how the anime handled it.
That's still a bad ending to me. For a multitude of reasons. For one, everyone that Violet has ever known or loved lied to her. And she kind of has trust issues already because she doesn't understand when people are lying or not. It does not come first nature to her. Two, the Major should stay dead.
Yeah. I mean, I think three of us could probably agree that he's better off dead. Let's keep it.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's better off dead.
Live her life.
It's a great movie, in the 80s, but he's better off dead because it just makes for a much more impactful idea of Violet growing into her own and not having to have a reliance on this father/lover figure, which, let's be honest, a little weird.
Though, to be fair, by the end of it, she still does, which is a bummer.
I'm going to talk about that.
Okay, well, let's get into that in a minute, but
yeah,
I just want to state beforehand that I think also the Major coming back, and this is why I kind of don't understand why the novel decided to do this, but again, I guess it's structured completely differently, so it's like another different story. So
who knows? Yeah.
But But I think in the anime, if that actually, because there is another project announced, a related Violet Evergarden project.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Alright.
But
Discussion for another time.
yeah, well, we can discuss that too after we're all done. But I think that bringing him back would actually kind of just ruin everything that just happened.
It would-
to me,
Yep.
to be in
It
my
is-
head, like that would just completely negate everything that just happened. It's basically a retcon and saying, "Oh
It's
yeah,
the-
all that it doesn't matter. Just
It's
forget
the
it."
fucking rebellion story for this anime. If he comes back,
It's Madoka Rebellion.
it's
Oh,
what it
yeah.
is. Yeah, it's hey, that whole universe doesn't fucking matter because I'm upset and I don't want it anymore. So now we're gonna live in a shit universe. This is what
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, you're right. You're
Gosh.
totally right.
I
Yeah. So
I
that's a
hope whatever
clusterfuck in its
project
own
they
right.
decide to do, I hope Major's fucking dead.
Yeah. It's what, Matt?
I said that's a clusterfuck in of itself.
Oh,
This
yes.
This whole anime light novel differences is a clusterfuck.
But to be
So,
honest, I think it is insanely brave of KyoAni that this was the book that fucking won their contest, and they said, you know what? I don't think that we want to follow this book. I feel
Yeah.
like it's insanely brave of them. You could say pompous or prideful, but I would argue that they were like, I don't know if this story works as well as it should. Let's try to see if we can adapt it in a different way. And I felt like it succeeded in that sense because I genuinely enjoyed the show. All the anime original stuff that I know of that is anime original, because I don't know the differences, is fantastic. And the series itself is very, very good in my mind. It is a show that requires patience, in much the same way that I had to build up some fucking patience before watching 2001 Space Odyssey. You got to build up a little bit of patience before watching this because it requires it. But man,
it is
it
very
good.
well worth it.
Yeah.
There is a massive amount of payoff at the
Oh
end.
gosh,
Oh, yeah.
that payoff made me
God.
cry
Whew.
so hard.
Whew.
I can't say
Especially-
that I. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, especially as somebody who deals with their own mental demons, but also like knows people that have dealt with mental demons. Like watching somebody that I know that was an adult that has PTSD on the 4th of July, just like holding their head down and shivering. Like I can absolutely understand I can at least sympathize, if not fully comprehend emotionally Violet doing the acts that she did during that episode in which she's just like tearing up her room and the aborted suicide and different things like that. Like I can completely see that and I was in tears because I don't understand the pain that she's going through, but I think it was portrayed so well that I feel like I could at least understand it.
Yep. That was a hard episode.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard to watch.
Shit.
Okay, full disclosure, real quick. I didn't realize she was killing herself until about halfway through that scene, and then I
really?
realized it. Yeah. So
That's
that because I was very distracted by the dog stuffed animal. Not gonna lie. Just
what?
just you know what? Let's leave
You know
it
what?
at that.
Never mind. You will leave it at that.
So it made a reappearance near the end of the
We're gonna
of the
talk about it
series.
later, but whenever we get into another show, but a place further than universe, that was like me and the raccoon statue for like the first 4 episodes. They kept having these serious conversations, and they would show that fucking school mascot with the buck teeth, and I'm like, oh, that's all I was thinking. It was just mimicking the statue.
God.
I couldn't focus on the story.
Who are you, Ren? Fuck off.
I'm sorry.
What?
Anyway, but as you were going to say, Matt.
Oh, I was gonna say before that, I was basically just gonna say that the ending was good. It wasn't the most emotional part of the show for me.
Here's the thing.
Oh, hell no. Of course
You
not.
know what?
Definitely
I
no.
legitimately said this out loud to myself after I got done with the ending. As I said, that was a good ending. That is not the ending I wanted.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel the same way.
For sure, yeah.
Because
But-
it goes back to the idea that she's in love with the Major and she will always be in love with the Major and she's always going to be obsessed over him. And I'm like, I'm not sold on that. And then 2, there is so much action in dealing with the action at hand that I feel like the show kind of didn't want to necessarily express all that it wanted to express about emotion and the emotions that Violet has finally come to fruition with.
Yeah, I kind of feel you there. The scene on the train in episode 12, I didn't really like that scene, actually.
It's real fucking cool. I'll give him that.
Yeah, it's cool. Like,
it's a very well choreographed scene and all that jazz, but you are right in that they are fucking wasting time that they could have used for some emotional reconciliation. But hey, I'm not directing the show.
And I will say it was nice, all of the stuff that they did in the last 2 episodes as far as the Major's brother went. And demonizing him and then humanizing him, and then you finally see that come to a conclusion with him. You don't know how he truly feels, if he still truly he does not like her, and he expresses that so fucking well with that last quote where he's like, do what my brother said, live and then die and keep it that way. And I was like, holy shit, that was so complicated and so good, and I loved it, especially because she was like, I don't have to follow orders, motherfucker. And I was like, yes, I love you.
But yeah, like the thing is, you know, he does do that, but he also, it feels so much like he also realizes how much of a dick-ass he's been all these years.
I think he's coming to some understanding.
Correct. But he's also still very much still an asshole.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a very solid, like it felt like real. It didn't feel like shoehorned in or like, I've had a change of heart. My heart has grown 3 sizes this day. It's like, look, fuck you. I still don't like you, but do your thing. Sorry. But maybe not fully, really. Like, it was believable given the character of him that we had experienced up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love that this show does that. From time to time, it is not a happy ending. From time to time, it is not a sudden twist to make everything beautiful and flowers. No, it's a hard truth. The realization that they came to at the end of the twist of 7, 8, 9, in which she's in the office with red hair, can't remember his name because I'm shitty with names, Hodgins. She's in the office with Hodgins, and she says something along the lines of, will I ever be whole again, or will I ever be fully healed? And he says no. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that you can't get better.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that for 2 reasons. One is that it's such a powerful statement, and it's a true statement. For a lot of people that suffer with PTSD, they will never fully heal. They will always have to live with that. And it's shitty, but that's just how it goes. But that doesn't mean that it's over for them. It means that they can get better. They will always struggle with their demons, but it can definitely get better. I loved that. And then the other thing, it fucking brought me to tears because it is so obvious that he's not just saying it to her, he's saying it to himself. And throughout all the episodes prior to that, we had been focused on Violet, but we had seen since episode 1 that he has been suffering quietly by himself for so long.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like he says it's one of the last episodes, you know, she's not the only one that's still burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful that this show is willing to say that it is not always going to be a good and happy ending. And I love that about how realistic it was for the Major's brother. And I also cried a lot at the Major's mom and Violet meeting. That was really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I very much like the show. I'm nervous about future projects. I will say that I was not entirely sold on the ending once again because Hodgins should stay dead, and
Hodgins isn't dead though.
Fuck off. And I feel like
no, you said literally the wrong name.
Oh, sorry. I feel like Hodgins should stay alive. He's been through a lot, man. That letter in the final episode about his future daughter after he had lost his previous daughter, I was so dead at the end of that. No, I feel like the Major should stay dead. I feel like there should be... I was not happy with Violet's saying that she is still going to be obsessed with the Major, because I feel like it would have been much more powerful at that moment to state, as much as I still love him, I will move on, and I will be my own person. Because that's what the Major wanted for her in the first place. So, like, it's not as good as it could be as far as that ending goes, but it was a good ending.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm interested to see, does anybody know any information about the next special episode that's coming out?
It's being released in July.
Is there any like synopsis or anything?
No, as far as I know, there's not. There might be, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I just know the date.
I'm a bet it's probably going to be sometime earlier in the series and just be a one-off vignette unto itself.
Yeah, probably.
Most likely. But
it does make me nervous though that after the credits she opened up the door and she had this like sudden realization.
Oh. Yeah,
I was like,
a lot of people are still kind of back and forth on that scene. They're like, is that the Major? Is it not?
It's the fucking... to me, I was like, you're doing two things that I don't like. One, it looks like you're bringing the Major back, and I don't like that. Two, it looks like you're doing an Inception, and I have stupid fucking arguments about Inception's ending. It's stupid. And I was like, you're doing the same shit.
I mean, like, though, to be fair, I feel as though if it was Gilbert behind the door, we would not have got that, like, really relaxed, chill response she had.
No, she would have broken down.
Yes, so, like, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. I am kind of interested who is behind the door. It could just be, could just be a person. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the ending to Castaway, in which he has the package that he never opened on the island, and the person opens up the door and he delivers it to him. It really reminded me of that a lot, and then I start laughing because I always get reminded, off topic, of the parody Super Bowl commercial that they did where they opened up the package for the Castaway thing, and she was like, oh, thanks, and it's like all the shit on the island that he needed. It was like a GPS, a like satellite cell phone, and all this other shit. I just start laughing. Anyways,
wow.
I laughed a little bit at the end of Violet Evergarden, and then I also got a little upset. That was my mental process.
Oh, man. I love it when I'm watching a show and it's supposed to be a sad moment, and I'm just like, oh, God, details.
Like my experience with Flip Flappers.
Yeah. that was surreal.
Kyle, I try to forget that.
We all try to forget it just a little bit.
I love it so much.
I hate it.
Yeah. There was another musical cue that set me off in a place beyond the place further than the universe. That was like that.
We are not there yet.
I know. I'm just saying there was another one.
That's a little bit further away.
It made me laugh so fucking hard.
I'm gonna break you, Matt.
Oh my God. Why do I keep making these horrible jokes?
So... all right. Moving on. Anything else?
Not that I know of. I cannot think of anything else at this time. I know on the typewriter at the end of Violet Evergarden, the text, apparently somebody figured out the language.
I was curious about that, but I wasn't like that curious about it.
All it says is "I love you." Oh, that actually does make me think of something else. Actually, I'm glad I brought this up.
All right.
So
just reeling us back in.
Well, it just real quick. This won't take long. I like this trend of shows that are very, very impactful and drama heavy. I like this thing that they do where they drop the episode title at the end of the show. I think
like
that's
they're
a lot
fucking
better.
Dropping the mic at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, I like that. ReZero did that. And Marvel Penguin Drum did that. There's quite a few series that we've watched so far that have done that, and I enjoy it every single time because it's cleverly worked in and makes you think about the title a little bit.
That also reminds me of another point I wanted to bring up. Thank you. And I know I've talked a lot. There's another thing is that this show fucking classically conditioned me, in that ending song I already fucking loved. It was very folk, in which it's just a singer and a piano. And it's very beautiful. I love that ED. But but it classically conditioned myself because it would do that shit all the time where it was dramatic. It would have that super impactful ending that made you think, and then boom, they hit you with the ED. So like even in the episodes in which it had a happy ending, I like boom, there goes the ED, and I just start tearing up. I'm like, it's a good episode.
Yeah, the ED so good.
Oh, that ED
Opening
is
is good
so
too.
good. Opening is good too, but I gotta give props to that ED. It is one of the best EDs I've seen come out in a while. Just musically, very good.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Now I think I'm done. I don't have anything else now.
I'm good. I'm ready
Does
to move on.
anyone want to take their individual one next? Because like, if not, I can just bust out Sanrio Boys real quick.
Bust out Sanrio Boys.
Bust one out for us.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it, man. Don't tempt a guy with a good time. I liked Sanrio Boys.
Yeah.
But it fizzled out real fast, which was
that's unfortunate.
real unfortunate. The thing about it was, you know, I talked a little bit about this like on Twitter and such early on in the season about I mean, obviously it is first and foremost a glorified advertisement for the Sanrio company to sell cute plushies and shit. Because that's just what it does. But it's fairly competent in actually making an engaging story because, I mean, from the get-go, our protagonist Kota is, you know, he loves Pom Pom Puddin', this goofy-ass looking golden retriever plushie dog thing, which is real cute. It's adorable. Yeah, but, like, from a young age, he was, like, bullied and teased, like, hey, you like this girly shit. That's dumb. You're a guy. And so the whole initial thrust of the first few episodes is like, hey, but it's fine to like what you like. Like, enjoy and be passionate about the things that you're passionate about. And fuck other folks that are, you know, not down with it.
Yeah.
It's a really cool message. And it was legitimately, like, working for the first half of the show to push against all of these ideas of, like, toxic masculinity and working against these, like, very strict heteronormative viewpoints and such. And I was like, this is cool as hell, and I didn't expect an advertisement for fucking Sanrio to actually be this competent and interesting and, like, on the pulse of this.
Yeah, no, when you explained that to me, I was like, fucking what?
Yeah, it was bonkers, dude. And so it does it pretty well. And by about, like, episode 5 or 6, they finally get the whole gang together. All 5 main boys, and so there's issues that they all have to deal with as well, like, you know, trying to hold all responsibility by yourself and take everything on yourself, but, you know, that's of course resolved by, you know, rely on your friends and such. You know, one of the guys is, you know, like, always referred to as, like, real cute and weak and shit, and it's like, hey, but it's fine that you're cute, like, embrace that shit, dude, it's fine. You can still be a man and be cute and all that jazz. There's different forms of masculinity, and it works on a lot of these different levels that are pushing against these societal norms. And then, like, episode 6 or 7, it kind of feels like the show is as if, like, oh, well, we kind of front-loaded this, so I guess we're gonna do some school festival stuff for the next 6 episodes?
That's where anime goes to die.
Yeah, so like,
like
shit, we ran out of material in the first several
time
episodes.
for a culture festival. No. Time for a festival.
I'm not kidding you. It's like, Protag's like, okay, cool, things are great now, and, like, the whole actual issue of them liking these quote-unquote traditionally feminine things is never addressed again. Like, maybe once or twice. But it is not a factor that is brought up. It turns into this whole thing of drama about, like, Kota sees the rest of the gang. He's like, man, I don't sparkle like you guys do in life. I want to sparkle too.
Oh, God. That sounds cringy. We'll be a Twilight
vampire. Problem solved.
Oh, it's real cringy. And it's just... I'm serious. From, like, episode 6 or 7 all the way through, it's like, hey, there's a school festival coming up. Let's do a musical, which isn't a musical. It's not.
Oh my god. Wow.
And about like maybe episode 9 or 10.
They really could have gone for the gold and at least made a musical.
But like episode 9 or 10, they do like oh shit, what is it called? The club like retreat training camp. They do a training camp episode.
Oh my god.
They do like it's as though they just pull out all the old like
we ran out of ideas. Let's get did they do a test of courage?
They think about it.
They think there we go.
Yeah, but
See, look at
like
this.
they really just
I could write an
decide
anime.
It's just like the second half of the series. They were like, okay, let's pull out all the tropes so that we can, and it's such a bummer.
I hate when shows do this.
It really had a lot of interesting potential. Like, you know, it's not like they're reinventing the wheel by doing cute guys doing cute guy things.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's been done before. But it approaches it in such a specific way. And, of course, again, I'm sure other shows have covered the idea of, like, countering these ideas of masculinity. But it does it in such a very direct and specific way that I was like, I can't think of anything in recent memory that has done anything like this. And so for them to have that really strong initial thrust and then to like back off of it real quick in the second half and not have that be this central idea anymore and it just be like this generic cute guys doing cute things shit, I'm like, why? Why did you guys do this to me? Why did you make this really good at the beginning and then just decide maybe not?
See, I was getting nervous because you said that it changed like the rest of the way through, and I legit thought that it was gonna be something like all of a sudden it just flips the script, and it's just like the very first thing you see is this dude with the fucking Labrador cutesy doll, just like, fuck is this shit? Just like tosses it, and he's like wears shades, and he's like all punk, and he's like fucking dorks.
This isn't Stella C Cubed, man.
Oh my god. Still have not seen that legacy. But
man. But yeah, it's just I mean, it's not an incredible show, and I mean even the first 6 episodes, like, it wasn't blowing my mind or anything, but it was doing genuinely interesting things with the genre and the medium, and I was like, okay, like, it's a fairly competent show. It clearly shows that people care about how they're actually doing this thing, even if it is an advertisement, which is probably why they cared about it so much. And it's doing genuinely cool stuff, even if it wasn't like breaking any new ground. And so I guess it was just disappointing. Like it had a lot of really solid promise, I felt. And by the end, I still like the show. It's just, man,
lost potential.
Like for them to go that first half and like be really solid in handling this shit, and for it to just kind of devolve into dumb tropes and drama bullshit. Ugh, it's a bummer.
You know, you said advertisement a minute ago. Caused me to think of something pretty cynical. You think maybe they were advertising it in that particular way, that it's okay for guys to like cute things just so they sell more product?
Well, we had talked about this before.
That's the thing.
On the previous,
that is the whole idea that I've had of this.
Episode.
And that, like, you know, okay, well, first 6 episodes, we can get all this cool stuff out there, and then by that time, you know, if someone's already hooked on this, you know, cool, we've done our job. We don't have to put as much effort into the second half. I thought about that. And I'm not going to make any claims to say that that is what is happening here, but it kind of feels like it. Because the thing is, also in the second half, there was definitely less product placement than there was in the first half. So, yeah.
Interesting.
It definitely does feel like they really front-loaded this stuff with all the uplifting cool shit and also stuffing all their product in there. And then the second half, they kind of pull it out. They still do have some here and there, but it's nowhere near what it was initially. So, again, it definitely does
That's kind of interesting.
feel like just
I'd like to know the
glorified
production
advertisement.
of that show. I'm also interested to know if like the advertisers maybe pulled out because they knew the show was going to go downhill or something.
I doubt it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's their own
like,
show.
the advertisers,
why would they do that?
Yeah, it's their own show.
Yeah,
And
like it is produced by Sanrio.
Yeah.
It's not like they were a sponsor. It's like
okay.
Sanrio actually had a hand in making this thing.
Yeah, according to the Wikipedia page, it says that Sanrio Boys is actually a media franchise created by Sanrio, and it was multiple projects.
Yeah, it started as like some Twitter thing, and then it got really fucking popular, and
it's-
they were like, "Oh, we can do something."
It's one of
with
those
this."
multimedia projects.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. I mean, like, there's
Some-
a fucking Otome game of it now. I
Yeah.
think for mobile or something.
Yeah, I
I've
see
heard of
here
it.
that one of the first things that ever came out was a manga, which may have started as a webcomic, but I don't know.
It was, yeah, and that came out in like 2015 or something. So.
Yeah, it said the manga was being licensed and released in 2016. So if there was work before
okay.
then, it might have been compiled. Yeah, because it says that it started on Twitter.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, like I have a lot of suspicions as to why it shit the bed like it did. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. The ultimate thing is, at the end, for me, I still appreciate that it even put forth the effort, because it feels like there are so many shows that just decide, hey, let's keep up status quo and do all this dumb bullshit that is done every other time.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it actually bothered to try to do something different for a while was cool to me. I appreciated that.
Yeah,
a lot.
I mean, it's
So.
totally fair to have a mediocre show and then have like very good parts of that mediocre show stand out.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's totally a thing. So
And to play
Yeah.
devil's advocate, it could also be the reason why they pulled out a lot of the advertising later is because maybe they were fearful that people would just get tired of it.
Correct, yeah, and that's, again, how I was thinking. But
Now,
Anyway,
granted,
yeah, like-
it is a show produced by Studio Perot, who has a history with.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of directors and staffs up, and so who knows?
That's true. That's true.
So I don't know who was working on it. So
I am interested though because you said that they started pulling out all the stops as far as like the fucking like Culture Fest and all this other stuff. I am interested because according to what I'm looking at here, it says that the manga definitely came first in 2016, and then continued to go on and it's still going on. So I'm interested in. Because I assume that what they're probably going to do is already take the plot that they have going for them and adapt it to the anime. I'm interested to see if the manga does the same thing.
and I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a
'Cause
good question.
It could be a situation in which they followed the manga up to a point and then they decided to do anime original shit. But I don't know.
Yeah, and it could
Or-
be. But to be honest, I'm not invested enough at this point to actually fucking care.
Yeah.
So
And
That's an issue.
at least for me, it's like we had talked about this before. I think on the previous podcast, unless we talked about it by ourselves, I don't remember. We talked about it as far as this show goes. Even though it is selling a product to you, that is not a bad thing if it does a good job with what it's given. Like,
oh no, yeah, and that's the thing.
I think we
like
mentioned that
again,
before.
it is a competent fucking show.
yeah,
Like it is not as though it is
It's not
just some dumb thing that's there to like push a product and then get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like there has been clear attention given to these characters because they feel more than one dimensional. Now
they're
it's not like
two-dimensional
they feel.
characters. They're in an anime.
shit.
I hate
off!
this. Let's just keep going.
God,
I'm sorry.
I totally agree with you. I mean, we see that all the fucking time over here, where you have like My Little Pony and all this other shit that comes out, and it's like, sure, the first time that they did My Little Pony, it was definitely just trying to sell you something. But the second time that they did it, and they hired on the person that created Powerpuff Girls to do it, and she did a fantastic job making a very competent show. And I have nothing wrong with product placement as long as they're not shoving it down my throat and they're just doing a good job of making a good show or making a good piece of content that I'm going to read or watch.
Right. So yeah, like ultimately, I didn't end up hating the show. I respect it for what it did, as I especially respect it for what it did given like its intended purpose and the constraints of genre and such, and the way in which it kind of busted out of that. But yeah, in the end, it was kind of a bummer that it defaulted to all this kind of bullshit. And, you know, regardless, I'm sure there was a reason. I'm sure they're not good reasons. But hey, I'm not here to dispute that. It's fine. I liked it enough. It was alright.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there you go. At least
it was definitely a different show for this season. So
I mean, at least it finished its show to completion. So, you know.
it did.
Was there a show that didn't?
Yeah. March and Mansion didn't. The animator team is apparently... the last 2 episodes are just an indefinite hiatus.
What?
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, something... There's a whole article on it, Tsukugabori, but...
Okay, yeah.
But basically, the animator staff behind it is just completely disorganized. So,
I mean, like...
they're behind schedule, so...
I mean, like, I was a little distressed for it when I was doing the watch every first episode hell, and it had a fucking...
Well, it had nothing to do with that. It's just the behind the scenes just apparently just completely shit the bed.
No, saying that, like, for a very long time there, it just had, like, a fucking, actual anime scene reel for its opening cinematic.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yep. It was like that for the first episode. I thought it was for the first couple other ones, though, to be fair, I didn't...
Some shows do that, though. Like, I mean,
I know some shows do, but it's kind of generally a red flag.
Yeah.
But...
I would like to comment on something, by the way, because I've realized people are going to get mad at me later.
What's up, fam?
Okay.
I had made a slight on Studio Pierrot, and I'll go ahead and say they've made some good shit. I love Yu Yu Hakusho, but
yeah, I will shove a boot up your ass if you talk shit about my Ghost Detective boy.
Yeah, no.
I will slit your throat.
I love my Ghost Detective boy, and almost on a daily, I think of that same fucking episode of where they play the taboo game, and he just says "bah." I die. I laugh to myself all the time. No, like they've made some good shit. I'm just saying, not always. And I feel like in my personal opinion, sometimes lately I haven't been entirely sold on them.
TLDR, don't at Kyle.
It's my personal opinion. Don't hate me, please.
Now,
Okay.
all I was saying was that, someone would come back in response and say something like, blah, 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 staff is different for every show because it's such a big studio, blah, blah, blah.
No,
Yeah,
and that's
of course.
absolutely
So,
fair. That's totally fair to say to me and remind me of.
But yeah,
yep,
so
that's all
anyway.
I'm saying. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
But hey, yeah, fucking got in and out of this one for once. Hell yeah.
good job.
Woo!
Yep. All right.
Next one on the list. Matt, let me ask you a question real quick. How
Sure.
much do you have down for Takagi? Because I feel like...
Not a lot. So, Takagi-san
okay.
is good. Go watch it. The ending is Hyun. Done.
I'm
I'm sorry. Could you
repeat that?
I said Hyung. Like, is that how you pronounce that? It's got no vowels.
out.
It's H. How do you spell
country?
this?
HNNG.
H.
Like,
yeah, like that. That.
okay.
There you go. The
Oh,
cute
Like,
noise.
it's cute as fuck.
The cute noise.
Like having a fucking heart attack because it's so cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 I was like, what are you talking about?
I thought this was like an
Hyung?
inside joke where, like, at the end she just goes "hyung."
Like, the end doesn't have a tilde on it, Matt. That's not how it works. Bud, what are you doing?
Come on. It was supposed to be cute, so I thought it had a tilde. Come on. Don't slaughter me over this. Come on.
I'm gonna fucking puke.
Did you just say you're gonna beat me?
I said I'm gonna puke. Are you deaf?
Yeah, I
Oh my gosh, I love you so much, Matt.
Hyung.
am. Oh my god. Well, we killed everyone.
Oh, well, we
I'm
at
only
least have
laughing
a
at you
podcast sign off now.
because this shit happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's all a good fun. But Takagi-san is good. And I don't normally like those kind of shows, but that show was good. And
I of the 2 episodes I saw, I was very much invested, and I remember I only started watching it because you were like, go fucking watch this show. And I was like, yes sir.
Same.
it doesn't really like, it does a little bit of deviation in certain aspects, but it still is mostly what it is.
Like in what way? I'm curious.
Just deviation in the way that like it's kind of more like the first episode, I guess is what I'm saying. Like there's more touches, like tinges of romance, like throughout the series.
I feel like
so it's like not all a gag thing,
that, though. Yeah,
it keeps it interesting.
Okay, I can dig that.
And besides that, I mean, the show's pretty much exactly what the rest of the show is. It's just that it gets freaking ridiculous sometimes, and at a certain point, it doesn't become quite as like mindfucky as I wanted it to be.
You monster! Did you not see his face in the mirror?
Yeah, he's broken. Like, this kid is broken by the end.
He is a broken human being.
But I'm not broken, so there's that. But that's okay. I still love this show.
Are you not, though? Are you not?
I love how you watch the torture of a human being, and you're like, well, I'm on the sidelines and I'm still fine. So
a human child.
Yeah, you're watching a child be tortured, and you're sitting there on the sidelines with popcorn.
He'll get over it.
Matt, we just had a discussion about
It'll
PTSD.
build character.
I just want you to remember that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, this kid is dedicated to his push-ups.
Okay.
But I also want to say that I wanted to actually make a constructive comment this time. Okay. I swear.
Okay.
Because I know half of the comments that come out of my mouth are not constructive in any way.
No, we just slowly start to realize what we've already known.
You guys already knew this
psychopath.
And that's why I love Takagi. But the key here is that oh my god, now I've completely lost what I'm gonna say.
No.
Hold on, I'll get it back.
Laugh at you.
I'll get it back. I was just gonna say I liked the voice actress that played Takagi because she did a fantastic job.
In the 2 episodes I saw,
absolutely,
she was fucking
perfect,
solid. Yeah,
perfect. I saw someone on Twitter say that they didn't like it, and I was like, "How do you think this is?" I mean, maybe they didn't like it, but I understand that. But like, they also kind of phrased it like, "It's kind of not good," and I'm like, "What? You could have gotten some." Like, they said something like, I could have gotten someone different to do it better," and I'm like, "I don't know about that." Because
that's an odd statement to say.
Yeah.
I would understand if it's a situation in which they're like, I don't like this, I don't like the voice actor, I don't like the voice work because I don't like the character. Because like, you look at somebody like Malfoy from Harry Potter, or you look at like what's his tits, the dickhead in Game of Thrones that was like the kid prince, and people have such a visceral reaction to that they hate the actor, even though the reason why they're having a visceral reaction is because the actor's so good.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's surprising to me that they just be like, oh, it's not that great. No, it's fucking solid.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's Amelia's voice actor from Re:Zero.
Yeah, that is like
And
that's good.
She's Saito from Eurocamp. Like, y'all, what the fuck are you talking about? She's got chops.
She has range, man. She has massive range. And it's crazy to think about that in my mind, because that just doesn't even compute. Like, I look at this character and how this character is portrayed, and I'm like, oh, they made the character for the voice actor, obviously, because this is just that good. I'm just like, holy shit, she must live this life.
Yeah.
Like the director probably goes home crying to his wife or husband.
Wow, we've got some really deep story now.
He just goes home and he's like, I can't make it through this production, honey. And she's like, you can do it. You're strong. You're brave. You're better than her. And then he comes in and there's like a fucking pie in his chair and he's just broken.
Oh my god. It turns out that this production was so good because the director and the staff on this show was completely just mind broken by the voice actress. Because she does such a good job.
We cannot metagame fan fiction the directing staff of the show, you guys.
We just did.
We can't do it. It's not what this podcast
This is my headcanon,
Look,
motherfucker.
this is our podcast. We can do what we want. And that's what I decided to do.
Fine, sure. Okay, cool. And hey, Matt, you know what? We're reaching about the hour point anyways. Is it time for me to do a silly song?
We now return to Silly Songs with Zach.
No, we're done. Let's move
Are
on.
you sure? Are you sure?
Look, I just wanted to make the comment about the voice actress because I wanted to say that she was doing a good job. You're not doing the silly song. That's irrelevant.
Okay.
No,
You're the
okay.
one that suggested it.
Okay, to get us back on track, I
Okay,
absolutely agree
next.
with you, Matt. Like, holy fuck, this voice actress, phenomenal. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just the way in which she does the degree of smugness to this.
Yeah.
And the way that she can flip back and forth between being a smug little shit and also being, very, just so articulate and composed and completely non-threatening in any way is just...
Yeah.
It's
And the way that she's able to blend that with like an actual sincerity of her feelings that the main character is just not able to comprehend because of how broken he is.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she's able to portray that so well.
What a bummer. Because
Yeah.
it's so broken.
There's a blend of teasing, like conveying her feelings, and stoicness.
Like to
That's
me,
perfect. Perfect blend.
You're going to laugh at me, but to me, what the big thing that I think defines her so well is in the first episode she has that one scene with the eraser in which on one side she writes the joke and on the other she writes her actual true emotions that she likes him. And I think it's so amazing that she knows him so well that she fully expects him to choose the joke, but at the same time she's not afraid for him to suddenly realize how she feels. And she knew it was going to be a 50-50 chance that he would look at the eraser one way and not the other. Knew for a fact that it was completely left up in the air. But she's absolutely willing to go either way in that situation.
Yeah. But she has also, like, bandy dick cucumber batched this boy to the point
Oh
where
no!
she knows what
I
he's
was
gonna
going to
do.
say you're going to laugh at me because like she is the fucking Joker. She is chaos incarnate, like Christopher Nolan Joker, because she's like fully willing to let everyone explode on one side of the eraser, and then on the other side she gives up. Like she's totally willing to just take a chance,
That's
roll
awesome.
the dice.
And to be honest, like near the end of the show, there's a lot more moments like that, and it's really good. Like
That
that's
makes
the
me
reason-
excited because I absolutely
You have to
will
watch
finish
this.
the show.
You guys
no,
have to watch
I
this.
will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have
And
a
then you guys
backlog.
can like hyung with the ending with me. Okay,
Die.
I'm done now. Let's move on.
Okay, so...
No,
So
move on.
So can we just agree to, like, very quickly
Yeah.
do a bit on Eurocamp
Yeah.
and not take
Yeah.
an hour on this?
We talked a long ass fucking time the first time, the
Yes.
first podcast of the season. So
Correct.
yeah, by the time I got a
we
chance
cannot
to
do
speak,
this all.
everything
Yeah,
was already
Matt-
said.
oh yeah,
Matt,
I'm
take the
so
fucking
sorry.
floor, please.
Yeah,
I'm going to
so
shut the fuck
sorry.
up. Because that's what I was saying. I was like, if I say anything, it's going to
No,
be brief. So,
um,
Matt, take the floor.
Oh, what do you want me to say about Eurocamp? I'm not done with it. I'm only like 9 episodes in.
Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, well, say what you want to say then. That's fine.
Fuck off this podcast.
Eurocamp isn't that good.
Now,
No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, this is the Takagi-san part here. Are you fucking with us or not?
I was gonna drive 22 hours to your house and fucking bitch slap you.
And then just drive back.
Yeah, I had to drive back because I have work. I can only take a day off.
Oh, jeez. But, no. Okay, so Eurocamp is one of those Iyashikei shows, I feel like, that is just not going to work for me no matter what happens. So...
Can you help me out? Because I actually don't know that term.
Okay. Iyashikei. Don't ask me what it means. I can describe it to you in the way that it's basically these sort of relaxing, feel-good, comfy shows. Think like...
Kyle, think of it as like a Hig sort of show.
Oh yeah, our favorite term that we learned recently about this show. That's a Scandinavian term, Swedish term.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So.
Well, okay, fine. It is essentially the same thing as Iyashikai. It is describing the sense of comfort, warmth, relaxation, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It came out of Scandinavia. It's a Norwegian Danish word that just basically means wellness and contentment as well as comfort. And it became its own kind of like lifestyle or culture around it, similar to how kawaii became its own culture in Japan, and now there's mascots for everything and all this other shit.
Okay.
But anyway, so it's one of these kind of shows that's just not going to work.
Yeah. For reference, it's kind of like a show like Flying Witch or Manchu or... I've seen about 100 of these. Not 100. I've seen like 4 of these because I personally can't put up with them to finish most of them all the way through.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Totally
so it just... I get bored. And I fall asleep. It's kind of like when I watched Flying Witch... I fell asleep twice while I was watching it. And maybe that means it's effective, but it is too effective because
you know what? I will actually agree with you on that point, Matt, because like I actually have a lot of trouble getting through Flying Witch. And I think
I still haven't.
That's the thing. I haven't finished it. I have really no massive qualms with the show. I just haven't finished it because I feel like there's so much lack of things going on that I feel like I get a little too bored with it. But at the same time, I think that's kind of my fault because I went in with different expectations of what the show actually was.
Right. And for me, I think Eurocamp kind of falls in a little bit of that category. Now, granted, Eurocamp does have, I feel like, a lot more characters that I enjoy more. I won't say better characters, but I'll say characters that I enjoy more than some of those other shows. But
I also definitely feel like there's more going on in this one than Flying Witch.
A little bit, as in certain ways, but I think that has to do with the characters. So, that's kind of just my take. Is that I like the show, but I kind of just I kind of watch it and I'm like, I don't like have any problems with it per se. I just like, okay, that's a show and it's cool. I like what they're doing.
Yeah,
I just watch it. But the problem with me is that my attention span is just like, I want something more. Like, this is like, it's like eating a half-eaten bag of potato chips. And I'm like, that bag was mostly air to begin with, and then someone took half my chips. I like the chips, but I just want more chips.
That's actually a really great metaphor. That's a fantastic metaphor, Matt. I mean, personally, I don't necessarily agree with you on the show, but I really like your metaphor. That's fantastic.
I just came up with that, so...
yeah, well done.
I have a knack for that.
Like,
so...
No, but I think that's totally fair, Matt. Everything
it super is. Like, I mean, to be fair, not a lot really happens in Eurocamp.
They go camping.
They go camping.
And they like each other.
That's what it is. Yeah, they go camping and they like each other. And yeah, I mean, like, it's not... It is for sure not a show to where if you're expecting a lot of narrative development, you are in the wrong place, my friend.
Yeah, the only narrative development that we get is a dream, and it turns out it is a dream, and I was like, oh, fuck, shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, we also get the narrative development of, like, you know... It's not even narrative development, it's character development.
Yes.
And that, like, you know... Rin comes to find that, hey, group camping is cool sometimes, but you know what? I still like solo camping.
Yeah, and I think it was very powerful of the show to state that both are okay to enjoy.
Yep, yeah, I've been working on that a bit, and like it's, I mean, at the end, like Nadeshiko is finally, for once, deciding like, hey, I'm gonna try solo camping. At the very end there,
yeah, and
even though she has only done group camping before.
Yeah,
and so like, you know, we get a lot of nice, somewhat character arc there, but to me, the show is less about that kind of thing and more about, to me, this sort of exploration of personal joy in a lot of ways. In that, you know, it is very much, as you said, okay to, like, if you like group camping, do group camping. If you like solo camping, do solo camping. Both are valid. You are not required to, like, be a social butterfly, or you are not required to be by your lonesome to find personal validation. It is whatever you actually want. And however you do that is totally fine. Like, cool. Like, chase your bliss, all that shit. Like, it's great. And so there's no real qualms with that. And
I will say,
in that sense, it's just nice.
Yeah. I will say, though, by the way, if you are going to go solo camping, please tell somebody. And understand that if you're stuck in the woods and there's a bear, you are by yourself. Take it from somebody that has gone camping and has seen bears attack campsites. So
you know, I feel like that was a very Kyle Boy Scout thing to say. I feel like that was a PSA.
It definitely was.
I'm just saying, if you're going to take ideas from the show, because, oh, fuck yeah, I absolutely am going to go camping after watching this show. I will say, this show is highly, highly accurate with with how it explains camping, all the camping equipment, and all the things that they do. But understand that, like, solo camping is something that just isn't as typically done because it means you're by yourself. And if something happens, it's 127 hours. And that's kind of a scary moment.
Yeah, I mean, just, like, be safe. It gives a thing at the end, like, hey, don't be a dumbass.
Every single episode.
Be safe. I mean, like, I remember, I think maybe, like, 3 weeks in, my brother showed me an image of some guy.
Oh, you're going to bring this up. I was going to do this.
Are you talking about the brush fire?
Yes.
Wait, what? I don't know about this.
So, like, 3 weeks into the show. You know what, Matt? You take this.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, about 3 weeks into the show, there's this image there's this post that appears on an image board. And
oh, no.
It says, "Hey guys, how do I put out the fire?" He's like, "I started a fire just like in Eurocamp, and I cannot put it out."
Oh no!
No, and it just keeps escalating. Like he's just like, "Oh my god, it won't stop. It's burning," and there's several images, and people are replying to it like, "Oh my god, that actually worked!" Like a lot of people were surprised that it worked, with other people being like, "Oh my god, why did you listen to this anime? Oh my god, Eurocamp, why did you do this?"
No.
And the funny thing was, and other people were like trying to dispute it, like, "Oh, this is fake, and then people tried to like search the images, couldn't find anything, and then apparently like a news article comes out of Mexico that says, "Oh, there's a large forest fire going on right now."
Oh no, gosh!
And I'm like, hey guys. Fuck your
I didn't
camp.
know it got that bad.
Yeah, it got that bad, and that was the last I ever heard of that story.
Hey,
it's no longer funny now. This is no longer funny.
Is that guy okay?
I thought it was some small thing that eventually
I don't know.
went out.
I have no idea. But
Holy fucking shit.
That was an image, and that was a story, and I was like, wow. That was the only thing.
Wow.
That was a lot. That is a lot to take in.
How did this motherfucker has internet and he or she, I shouldn't, because we don't know, how did this person not fucking dial like 911 or whatever the equivalent is in Mexico? What the fuck? Why would they be like, "Hey guys on the internet, help me out with this shit," instead of "let's call the fucking fire department"?
Now see, here's the thing. if he had an elevated stand and had set up firewood on top of there, and used pine cones as fire starter, this would have been fine.
I will say,
This
though,
would
I
not
am
have been a
very
problem.
nervous. I will say, because I am very nervous about their stand in that show, and I'm sure it's fine, but whenever I was camping, I have long legs, and I tend to kick things, and the fact that they sit close to that, I just kept thinking of myself, like, accidentally bumping a leg, and all of a sudden the whole fire just falls over on the grass, and I'm like, oh, no. I'm more used to actually, I'm more used to camping in which you like dig the fire pit and then it's like you get rid of all fucking brush near this motherfucker and then you light your fire. Like,
Welcome to our Kyle PSA Storytime segment.
Yeah.
Brought
I've
to you
done
by
some
Eurocamp.
I've done some stupid shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess there's not really a lot more that I want to say, except for like, I appreciate that it posits this idea of being able to like accept yourself and accept your passions in whatever form that manifests in that sense. Like, if you like doing shit solo like this, cool. If you like doing it in a group, cool. And it's nice that in a sort of club hijinks kind of show, where it's usually like the formula of let's grab an outsider and get them fulfilled through
Like
finding
force
a
them
group.
into slavery for our club.
Yeah, essentially, it's like, hey, I don't really want to join the group. They're like, oh, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. And they're like, all right, cool. Like, it's nice in that sense.
It's very nice. And I will say it's also nice that they both celebrate that you can do your own thing and you should do your own thing and you should be happy in doing that. But it also celebrates like moving a little outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see that the other members of the other people in this show, they all say to Rin multiple times, they're like, "Oh, you don't want to go?" And she's like, "I don't want to go." And they're like, "Okay, that's fine." But then whenever she shows a mild bit of interest, they say, "Well, you should go. We'll be with you. We'll do this with you." They're encouraging her to step out of her shell a little bit, but they're not going to force her. They're going to be like, "You take as long as you need."
Correct. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, do your own thing, but, also give encouragement to those that are perhaps looking to do something new.
Yeah, and it was
it's
really
nice.
cool whenever they finally got Rin on the camping trip at the end, and the other girls that had not really hung out with her as much. They were like, "Can we see your equipment?" They were so excited because they were like, "You're a fucking professional at this shit," and they're like, "I'm so excited. We look up to you," and it was like, "That's fucking badass."
Yeah, but yeah, it's good. And this show was kind of right up my alley, so
Yeah, absolutely up my alley.
This has received like full marks from me, but it's just out of my personal thing. But also, like, it just does what it does really well. And also, like, I really appreciate that we had this show and they had multiple like hot spring scenes that weren't voyeuristic or creepy
Holy
at
fucking
all.
shit!
Like,
I
the
was so
fact
happy
that this
about that.
blew my mind makes me sad that, like, the simple fact of not treating these girls like, eye candy is a thing that is like, whoa, what a weird concept, man. But, like, it was nice. It was just a really cute, wholesome show about folks liking what they like to do.
Yeah.
And it was real good, and I didn't have to worry about creepy shit that the show might have done, because it didn't do anything like that. It was nice.
It was so very nice to just sit down and not have to like tense up or like expect something like that out of this show.
Anyway, we should stop
Yeah.
and just move on.
It
It's a good show
was a good show.
if you like this sort of thing.
Well, I can talk about my comfy show,
Okay.
which I'm going to mispronounce. Hakame to Mikochi. which-
That doesn't sound too bad.
It was just
Hakame
funny
to-
because I was like, I wonder what the English title of the show is, and it's Hakame and Mikochi. Mikochi.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I genuinely enjoyed this show. It was really nice. But I thought it was interesting as it went on that it turned out to be slightly different than what I expected it to be.
Do tell. I'm real curious.
So this show is very much these tiny little people living in their neat little. They have their house in the forest, and then they go into the city, and then you just get to explore this little nation that they live in, which is basically a town and the surrounding area. They don't really go too far into the other places.
Yeah, like we kind of talked about in the preview.
Yeah, they go to a couple different towns. That's about it. And what I loved about this is that it's such a neat idea to take all these things that we expect out of humans and then apply them to elves. So like later on the show, they have a train. They have train stations and a train that they actually ride to go to a different town to do something else. And then you also have like boating and fishing and different things like that. And what I find interesting about that is that because there is this obvious difference in their size compared to others, it's interesting to see them go about and do what we do, but then in their size you can see that like whenever they go fishing they bring back one fish and it feeds the army. Like it's enough for everybody. It was also very cool because as this show continues to go on, it is not just the elves that you see, and you get to see this really interesting dynamics between all these different races of these different insects and different small creatures that also occupy these towns and also live here. It was cool to see this kind of like everybody has equal rights and everybody can do their thing kind of situation. The only thing that they touch on a little bit is that in the town that our two main characters live at, there is an actual ban on large creatures. Which was interesting. It's kind of a thing where like maybe they got attacked in the past, but we don't really know. All we know is that there's a particular character later on that becomes kind of important to the story, and that character cannot come into their town. They are not allowed. And it doesn't seem to be hateful necessarily. It just seems to be that this is supposed to be a safe haven for all the little creatures that can't make it in other places. It was kind of neat. But it also brings up an interesting like discussion about how creatures and races are treated in the show. It's a tiny little thing. But the reason why this show is not what I expected it to be is because each episode is basically like 2 or 3 different stories that you get in it, and in each one is just this little adventure that the two characters go on and they meet other characters and all this other junk. But I noticed a trend as it went on, and is that each story that they tell is about a different trade or hobby. And it's very interesting as it goes on. Is that like each character in the show has a trade or hobby that is theirs, and it's kind of cool because the way they actually go into details about how that trade or hobby works, and they kind of explain how it is. And it's also relating to how that trade would be traditionally done without modern technology. Like without robots doing it for us, and without giant machines that assist in the process. Like, so whenever you hear stories of like the traditional craftsman that like makes his tools, or the traditional traditional carpenter that still to this day, he's been doing this for 40 years and he does it this way and this is how it's done. That's exactly what it is. And it's neat that each episode they kind of delve into that for a different character. I thought that was really interesting because I learned about a lot of traditional traits and a lot of traditional hobbies that people have.
It's really interesting, actually. Like, I guess I didn't really expect it to take that specific turn. No. Though I also suppose I didn't necessarily have a specific viewpoint of it in mind. It just seemed like a comfy world building kind of show.
And that's the
thing.
But
I kind of like that it takes that turn, though.
Yeah.
That sounds very nice.
That's the thing, is that I didn't even notice this for most of the show because I was just so focused on these are cute characters and I like this world building that it's doing and it's a comfy show. And then it just dawned on me later that I was like, oh, they're showcasing a lot of just traditional craftsmanship. And I was like, that's really neat. And it seems relatively accurate to how we would do it. For instance, they get into one in which they talk about dyeing clothes. And they actually show the resources that they use and the process that they use for dyeing clothes. And I was like, this reminds me of what I've heard about before. I'm not an expert on it, but like you get those neat little like now this videos of like this is how you do this kind of thing. And they do it the traditional way. And I was like, oh, it reminds me of that. That's really neat.
That's
it was neat. It was really cool to see that, and it was cool to see these characters not only like performing this trade, but also building a story around that trade and who this character is and how they influence or exist in this world. I also have to give mad props because I don't like insects or bugs. There's an entire episode dedicated to the most adorable beetle in the existence of beetles. She's wonderful. She has a tiny little bow on, and she has this little high-pitched voice, and she's so small she fits on their heads. and they just put her on that. She's like, I want to go into town. Can you help me? And they're like, sure. And they just pop her on their heads, and they're like, all right, off to town.
I would just like to point out real quick that I had zero interest in watching this show until you mentioned there are little bugs. Now I am super interested.
Oh, she's real cute. And they do that with a lot of the insects as well. It's there's a neat thing that they do in that in the end credits, they give you a neat little note about the world. Like one of them that I saw, it was one of the first ones that I majorly noticed. It was like episode 3. They had one where they referenced something that had happened in episode 1 in which they hopped on a beetle and the beetle took them to where they needed to go. And we, like Zach, you and I thought it was fucking great.
Oh yeah,
like,
it was.
They were like, "Hey,
oh man!"
They're like, "Hey, can we ride you?" And they're like, "Sure thing." And like this cute little voice, they're like, "Okay." And they're like, "Yo, thanks, dude." When they get to the end, and he's like, "All right, see ya." I loved it so much, but apparently they do explain it because in episode 3, during the ED as it's going, they have these neat little factoids about the world, and in that one they talk about how the different beetles, because they're naturally strong creatures that can lift multiple times their weight, they're like, these beetles just offer that as a service. They're either taxi cabs or they're movers. So depending on how many people and what you want to move, or if it's just yourself, you can either grab a taxi or you can grab a moving beetle, and the moving beetle will like carry your furniture and you to a new house. And it was like, cool. Oh, that's a neat little thing.
It's real cute.
Yeah, and it was cool because as you started to get more and more of these, for instance, they had one about this wolf that started up this caravan of traders, and she started it up because she knew that they had no defenses, and she's a giant compared to most of the other people in this show, and so she was like, I will protect them. And so it becomes this really neat thing. And you read about it in the ED, and then several episodes later, you realize that is a character that took in one of the main characters and nursed them whenever they needed it and allowed them to travel with them. And it actually becomes important to the story. So you get this like little lore factoid, but then it uses every single one of those factoids at some point in the show. So it's not just here's a neat little thing. It also shows you how it works in universe.
Okay. So yeah, like I was already kind of bummed out that I didn't actually have the time to fully watch all of this as it is. But I mean, this is definitely more of a motivation for me to actually get on this thing because a cute, chill little like fantasy world building sort of show sounds real nice.
I genuinely enjoy the characters so much. These two girls that are the main characters are fantastic, and the relationship that they have together is amazing. I love how different their personalities are, but that in no way makes it a bad thing. They both get along so well. I will say my only negative thing is that it got a little heteronormative on me, because like these people obviously seem like they're in some type of relationship that may be more than a roommate situation, which is what they initially say that they are. Because like even in one episode, like the one that does all of her own like foresting and collecting of things and then selling them as her trade and also doing the cooking, she mentions that she feels so alone whenever the other character leaves and that she misses her. And like a bunch of other things. And even one other character that she's with is like, oh. And she's like, stop. And she's like, oh. And it was like really great. But then in a later episode, the red-haired girl, I can't remember which one is which as far as like which one's Mikochi and the other one's not. But the red-haired girl is a craftsman and a carpenter, and she also does like construction. And so she's helping out on a job, and the guy that was in charge of the whole thing just says, she like makes some mention, and the guy that's in charge of it is like, well, maybe we can get your wife over here, and she can kind of like help you out. And the red-haired girl goes, oh, but I'm a girl, I can't marry. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they even make another mention of it later, in which they're like, sorry that I thought you were a boy, and she's like, no, it's fine, I look a little boyish, I just can't marry that girl. And I'm like, I don't see why not. Like, it's never explained. They're just like, yes, because this is the way of things, and then they just move on. And I'm like, it seems a little ass backwards, especially given your actual relationship between each other. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just shipping my two characters too hard.
It is what it is, bub. But
yeah,
no, it's a comfy show, and it has a little bit more depth than what I thought going in. It's not a lot. Like, do not expect this to be like a complex and interesting. It's a fucking fantasy show about two elves living together in the woods. Like, it's your slice of life, and purely slice of life. It just does some neat little thing that I like.
Cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. I think Beatles are cool. That's about it. I can add.
I think Beatles should vote.
Yeah, there we go. Vote for Beatles.
Oh, I will say on one last thing, it was neat that, like, on the top of like all these characters that are different, like you have ferrets and you have bunnies and you have the elves, and they're all living together and all happy. It is neat to see culturally how that works, and how like the bigger characters take care to not step on or harm the little characters, and there's these neat little things that just become apparent to you because the way that their culture functions.
Mm-hmm.
It was a neat little addition to the lore that I thought was cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last
show, y'all.
Last show.
Place further than the universe.
Well, it's like the last. In case no one's ever listened to one of these before, we have certain shows that we actually kept, and the ones that we finished are the ones that we want to talk about for this type of podcast where we're at the end of the season. So last one that we all managed to finish.
Oh, but also though, Matt, you said you might have had some secret shows.
Oh no, I didn't get around to finishing them. I'll quickly touch on them. Slow Start, just real quick.
Yeah.
That show apparently didn't go anywhere from what I heard about the ending.
What a fucking
turns out it's getting. Matt, I'm not. No. All right.
You were about to say.
No.
What I think
all right.
you're about to say.
We're just gonna skip past that. But no. It doesn't really follow through what it set up in the premise, and that's kind of disappointing.
Oh, okay.
But I never finished the show, so I don't know really have anything to add besides what I've already said in the first podcast. After the Rain, actually good. People should go watch that. I don't know why.
You're the only one that said that to me. Yeah.
It's funny because I've actually seen a lot of support for it. It's just nobody's really outwardly saying it's good.
Okay.
Do you think it's something where they might get a little bit nervous because of like the initial setup?
I think it's
the age gap stuff.
I think it's because I think people are scared to come out and say that they like this show because a lot of people were like, "Ooh, this is weird at the beginning." So
I mean, you explained the first couple of episodes to me because I haven't seen a single one, and I legitimately was crawling in my skin. I was like, I was like so nervous.
It's kind of like the age gap is there because it's the whole point of the show. It's the point. I think where that show is going to eventually go is that they're not going to end up together. I think that's what's going to happen because the show is not designed to do that. Just from everything it's doing.
Okay.
If they did end up together, that would shock me because it's just not like it goes against everything what the show's doing. So. Okay. But I just think it's not getting mentioned because a lot of people don't want to be framed as weird for liking something that's weird. So I think a lot of people are keeping it on the DL. because of that. So,
Sure.
which that's kind of unfortunate in its own way, but that's a rant
that's
for another
definitely
time.
a bummer. But
Yeah.
yep, different discussion.
So,
If it's a good show and it handles its subject matter with care, I do not mind.
Okay.
yeah, that's all. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Because
I guess I stated that as a
another
statement, but that was more, once again, more of a question.
oh, I don't know how that could be a question.
Okay.
Okay. So let's just skedaddle. Does anyone have anything before we move on to
Nope.
Yorimoy?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So, how about that? How about Antarctica?
I regretted marathoning this show.
Really?
And the main reason is because I watched it all in one night at the same time that I was finishing up Violet Evergarden.
Did you cry a lot?
That night I cried like 6 fucking times.
Kyle, that was me today.
I
did it.
like Violet Evergarden. I watched the last 3. I had to watch the last 3 episodes of Violet Evergarden to finish up, and then but the last episode wasn't out, and so while I was waiting for that, I decided I was gonna be like, well, I started the first couple episodes of this show, so I'll go ahead and just like run my way through that until the last episode of Violet Evergarden comes out. And so I marathoned through this whole fucking show because it was that good. But also, every third episode, I was bawling in my room. I'm so glad my roommate didn't hear me, because all they would have been hearing through the wall is, oh shit, like just over and over again.
Like, my brother was out, like, at classes today when I was watching through the rest of this. And I was real happy for it, because, man, I was a mess.
Oh my gosh, it tore me apart. I would argue on the same level that some of the vignettes did for Violet Evergarden, and then on a couple of times more than Violet Evergarden did. I don't know why, it just did. It was just so strong.
The emails, Kyle.
The emails and how much she's fucking convulsing. I love whenever there is love whenever there's any media. It doesn't matter whether it's anime, animated, or even live action. When it is an ugly cry, it hits me infinitely harder than a like a beautiful one. Cuz it's so visceral and real. And oh my gosh, that was an ugly cry, and it was so good.
Yeah, this show kicked me in the teeth. And then it kept going, and I kept saying, yes, please, more. Keep going.
I'm learning things today. Noted.
Matt's just over here on Amazon going, all right, I know what to get him for his birthday.
Please don't. Please don't.
No, but like legit, I'm even tearing up thinking about it. This show does. I will say, I mentioned this last time that I was like, I'm really surprised how good the writing is because it feels so natural. And then somebody noted on Twitter with Source that they're like, well, it's because the writers for the show are all women, and they've totally grown up and experienced things of like a group of girls going through things. And I'm like, that makes total sense to me. Absolutely, because these characters, as crazy of a concept as this, and as crazy as a setup, I should say, as crazy as a setup this starts out as, it's so fucking grounded every single second, and it's amazing.
And it's yes.
Oh, a small segue. I just wanted to point out, there's quite a few shows that are written by women this season.
There were, yeah.
Like,
I was genuinely happy about that. That's super cool.
Since you have like a list up, fill us in, bub.
Okay, so I know at least 3. I know Citrus, After the Rain, and Yorimoy. They're all written by women.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, throwing that out there.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's a cool thing to point out. And like, it's also real nice to see this show in which all of the major characters are women in this sense.
Yes.
It's real cool, especially like women taking charge in like a STEM sort of field
Yeah.
of like
Absolutely.
science research, like all these kick-ass awesome women just like kind of leading the charge in this expedition, and I'm like,
It was
so
genuinely
cool. It's real nice.
It was genuinely a feel-good thing for me. That similar to kind of I like to term it the Moana effect. It is a situation in which the women and girls in this show, it is never questioned that they cannot do it because of their gender. It is always a situation they're like, yeah, no, this person's in charge of the whole team. They raised the money, they did the thing, and they're in STEM. That's just how it is. And I'm like,
Correct.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm totally down. This is awesome.
It was real nice. It was very refreshing in that sense.
It was.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I again, from a real empathic standpoint, this show did a lot for me. There was a lot of consistent emotional payoff that had been building from the first episode that by the end just had me very ugly crying, just because that is the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
But also because it was legitimately such a very consistent build from the get-go and getting us to this point of emotional resolution with Shirase. Oh man.
And I would
Wowzers,
even say,
guys.
what I genuinely enjoyed about that is that it wasn't just wait for the ending. Is that like, not only was it building and building and building upon itself, it felt like instead of being a gradual curve, it had these little like jump ups of like a little addition of like more emotional investment, and then it builds a little bit from that, and then another spike, and then another spike. It never dropped for me though. Like it was always a situation in which like it would introduce a new element that like really hit me in the feels, and then it would build on that.
Now, like, I agree with you, but also to be fair, this show was a very slow burn for me, because the first, like, honestly, 6 to 7 to maybe 8 episodes were, like, real slow. Like,
Really?
It didn't feel as though the show, like, really, really picked up until they finally actually got to Antarctica. Like, I enjoyed what they did, and I thought the character development was nice. Matt, I hear you mm-hmming there. Like, give me a little bit of that.
Okay, so I actually have the exact reverse opinion, that the first 6 episodes
Really?
are the best part of the show, and the last 6 episodes are weaker.
Oh, I'm fascinated now. Okay,
So-
I want to hear this.
so-
You
Let's
both
go.
have just fucking blown my mind.
So
Because I feel a third section of that, like a different version of that.
okay,
Just the I like everything.
so
Let's let
I'll
Matt do the thing.
No,
Yeah.
I was gonna
Let's
let him just go, like, state his general opinion first, since we all did it.
I was going to say that, like, I agree with you, Zach, that it was a build up to there, but I felt like there were particular moments and different things that they did that were fascinating, interesting on the way there to Antarctica. That
Hell yeah.
that I felt like fuck, I'm having a hard time putting it into words, but basically it was like you look at like episodes 4, 7 and different things like that, and they add these on top of all of the interesting character dynamics that were massively important for the story to get us to where we were. I also think it was the subplots of the different characters and their different dynamics, as well as these
for
different
sure.
little
Like-
hints at what truly happened to Shiraise's mother.
And, like, the shit
that
between,
were
like,
so
Tamaki-
important and hit me way hard before I even saw them on the ice.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, like, you know, the first 6 or so episodes weren't important, because, like, the shit between, like, for example, Tamaki and Megumi, oh, hot damn, dude, that one also about kicked me in the teeth. Anyway, but we have our first 6 episode expert here.
Okay,
Matt, like, oh, yes,
all right, so
let's do this.
one thing I really liked about the first 6 episodes, and this might just be coming from what I like to see in shows. I like when I see I'm gonna define this as slice of life adjacent for a second.
Yes, I'm down with that.
Because it's
I can
got
get behind that.
it's got like a touch of like dramatic aspects to it, which I always dig dramatic aspects. And I feel like they blended the two together like really well in those first 6 episodes. We got character development. We got like that moment you were just talking about between,
Tamaki and Megumi.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. See, I don't have the names pulled up. That's bad. But that moment was really good, and like, yeah, that moment got me. Like, if there was a moment in the show that got me, it was that one, actually.
That one was also so surprising because that goes against like every fucking thing I've seen in any other like high school girls show. Whether it's a moe show, whether it's a cute girls doing X thing, whether it's even just a show and some of the main characters are girls. Fucking surprising to see a best friend become that jealous and to do that.
Yeah, like, I mean,
and then to fess up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fucking great. I loved it. I mean, it's a shitty thing to be like, oh, I fucking love the betrayal, but I was like, no, it's a great story.
Yeah, I loved the bitterness that making me exerted. That was perfect.
It was also very realistic in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I felt it was very well portrayed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say that I felt the same way, but like that is very accurate.
Yeah.
So
like,
oh, go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. I liked the first 6 episodes. I actually liked all the parts before they landed on the ice. Like that's like the part of the show that I liked. And because a lot of those kind of character building aspects, I feel like were in that part. And I really value that in my shows. So I feel like once they hit Antarctica, the problem I kind of have with that is that it kind of took a little bit more of a focused turn towards finding Shirase's mother, which is fine. I think that I'm not saying that's a bad segment at all, because that was still good. I just felt like it never hit that point again, even like with the emails and stuff. Like, it didn't hit me nearly as hard as some of those like beginning aspects with the characters did.
Okay.
And so I felt like it was lacking in something.
I wouldn't go so far as to say it's lacking, but I mean, given your perspective and the proclivities for like, look, we've been doing this for a while. I know what you like out of your anime.
Yeah.
So I get why you weren't exactly like super keen on that. But to be fair, like, personally, I feel like there was still a lot of moments that weren't necessarily related to, like, you know, Shirase's
one of the
mother.
biggest ones that jumped out to me was Miyaki and the athletic team.
Yeah, the shitty motherfuckers from her track team. They were like, hey, you're in Antarctica. We're friends, right? Sorry we did all that shit to you.
It was the equivalent of, you're fucking famous now, right? And they're just coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
I mean, that was a good moment, too.
Yeah, and when Shirase just went fucking ballistic on them. It was so good. Such an incredible sense of catharsis.
Yes.
And the fact that she actually, like, got over this crazy, like, performance stage fright that she has to talk to some motherfuckers, like, the world over and just blast them and absolutely say, like, you cannot just come crawling back after all this time and expect forgiveness. Like, you have irreparably fucked this person up.
Yeah.
You do not get forgiveness for this just because, like, oh, sorry about that. We hope you're doing fine. Like, you have to understand there are consequences to this shit. And it was incredible.
Loved it.
I was losing my mind at that moment.
I also, before that, in that same episode, one of the biggest points in the entire series for me, and I think it's because I've kind of felt that way before, was whenever Miyaki, she puts on a smile, and then when no one's looking, she goes out into the snow and she just beats the shit out of some things. And because every emotion that's coming out of her because these people suddenly popped back into her life. And it was so amazing to see that, for me, from a story perspective, of just like her attempting to hide it, but then also her just needing some way to vent it and express those emotions that she just can't feel like she can. And it was so powerful to see that. I won't say that I'm just like, oh fuck yeah, it was like such a great moment that made me so happy. No, it was a powerful moment. I was so glad to see that, and I think it spoke volumes to like how the show really does try to it does focus down as it starts coming towards the end on Shiraishi, but I definitely think that it was a situation in which they gave this character that we hadn't really known as much about as the other characters, definitely gave her some time to shine.
I was just gonna say, is it Shiraishi or Shirase? Because there actually there's two characters in the show that actually have both of those names. So
fucking shit.
Yeah. So actually,
Shiraishi is our cute little Instagram idol.
Oh, I love her.
Right,
I love her.
That's right.
She is, man.
She's great.
I'm not kidding, Matt. Like, there are times where I was watching this show and she'd say something, and I'm like, "Is this just Matt?
Yeah.
Is this just him, just in a different character form?"
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I don't know. You've
like,
never
you
presented me with a
and I'm like,
contract of
"Hey, it's
friendship,
Matt."
but I feel like that's something you could do.
All right, that's good. All right, I'll make a note of that.
That's great because you legitimately do say that to us all the time. I'll make a note of that. Matt will remember this. I definitely agree with you there. Like she was wonderful. I liked her character. I didn't know if I would, but then like all the different little moments in which she like you expect her to be a specific way because she's supposed to be an idol, and then you find out she's absolutely not at all. But they don't go like the full fucking like Lucky Star on us and make it like a disgruntled, like almost older individual.
Thank
that's
God.
Just like, yeah, it's a very realistic thing in which like.
Yeah, thank God.
I love one of the moments is that like she has this little moment whenever they meet her at the train station, and they're like, "You're not all like dressed up," and she's like, "Oh, I hate to get prettied up. I have to do that for the job." But it's not like a fucking all the years that I've done this shit. It's more like, oh no, that's just not me.
I mean, what do you expect? She's an actual high schooler. You
I know,
dingus.
but I have legit. But that's a trope though. Is that you have all those times in which it's like, oh, I'm such a wonderful and popular student, and then when no one's looking, she's like, I fucking hate those guys from class 2. They're bitches, and like the inner bitchy person. But that's not her. Like she's very much like an individual that's just like, I'm not the idol you expect me to be, but I am my own unique individual, and I'm not just some trope. Is what I'm trying to say.
There was some real strong stuff early on with her, though. Like especially Matt in those first 6 episodes.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Where
Is that
she
they
was
figured that out
dealing with
soon.
this whole issue of like this weird kind of effect of friendship that she has had to deal with, and all the shitty people she's had to deal with. That got me hard.
It got me too.
Right in the chest, my dude.
It was one of those things where I genuinely enjoyed. I'm sorry to overtalk you, Matt.
That's okay.
It was one of those things where I genuinely enjoyed that even later on you see that she still has trust issues. When she gives them the contract saying, "I want us to be friends," she's not doing it as a joke, or she's not doing it because it's supposed to be a funny thing in the show. It's to remind us that she still has trust issues that she's attempting to work through. And you see the result of that in that it made some of the other characters unhappy, and it made one of them cry because they're like, how can you not trust us this way? But then they also remember that she has struggled with this because of just her past.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
Yeah, there's tons of good character moments in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess saying that the latter half is lacking I'm going to kind of retcon that a little bit. There's definitely some parts of the latter half that kind of like miffed me, just personally. And some of them are, I think, valid points. Other ones are just personal points.
And that's fair, yeah.
But, like, I'm just a little bit, I don't know if they mentioned this, like, you guys are going to have to correct me on this if I'm wrong. I don't think they directly mentioned that Shirase's mother was dead until there was, like, a point in episode 9 when they finally, like, dropped it like 100%, and I was like, they did a pretty good job of just showing it, and then they actually said it, and I felt like that ruined it a little bit.
I mean, like,
but
I think
they didn't necessarily directly drop it for a while, but I feel as though that is something that they had to do at some point, because it doesn't feel like,
I mean,
they could just keep it unsaid and tiptoe around it for a while. Like, it feels as though,
I mean,
sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, I don't know, it didn't feel like they really tiptoed around it. I mean, they showed like the altar, and I mean, they had direct allusions that, like, yeah, she's not coming back. Like,
yeah,
that's
of
the
course.
thing.
But the thing is, like, for Shirase's arc, it felt as though she needed someone to actually, again, sit down and say, look, I understand this. I understand the pain you're going through. I feel this pain, but she's not coming back. I understand that, and I understand that there is a lot of power that comes from leaving it unsaid in a lot of senses. But there is a gradual build that I personally felt in the story's narrative really had to be reached by having a frank discussion about it. That's just the way that I see it personally, and that might not jive with everyone, but that's just the way that I personally saw it.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, the point makes sense. I just don't like it. Is what it comes down to.
That's totally fair. You know,
I think the thing is that, like, after marathoning through this yesterday, I remembered that there were several moments in which it showed that Shirase continues to send the emails, and it's because it's not that she expects her mother to get them, but it's because she has not given up that her mother might still be alive. And you see these consistent moments of the altar and her grandmother praying at it, but you never see her pray at the altar. Because she has not given up. And then you see other moments in which other people will mention her mother, but she doesn't necessarily seem to be talking about her mother always in the past tense. Like, there's always a feeling that she hasn't necessarily given up on the inside, that she's not accepted that her mother's dead. She knows that it should be the truth, but she's just not accepted it. And that's why she continues to send the emails. And I think that's why that moment later with Gin, in which they both sit down and they both cry about this, stating that this person that we love is gone and we both have to accept that. I feel like that's why it worked for me, is because I noted that throughout the series she hadn't given up on. She knows that it's the only conclusion, but she's just refusing to accept it.
Mm-hmm. Trying to put off the inevitable as much as possible.
She knows it's the truth, but she just won't accept it. And so, like, the emails continue, her not praying at the altar continues, her refusing to even talk about her mother unless, like, Gin comes around or something like that, and then her being hesitant to really even mention or bring up the moment of her mother's death. So I think that was definitely the progression that they were going for. Not that it was ever in flux that her mother was dead, but it was the character herself never admitting it to herself.
Yeah, but I can kind of see that from a character point of view. I guess I was only thinking it from, like, the audience perspective, but
yeah, I don't think they were ever trying to show the audience.
It just kind of made it weird. It was weird because I kind of was like, we kind of already know that. Like, I don't know why we're going through that again, but
yeah,
it makes a little more sense now. But I still kind of felt like I was already being told something I knew, and I just kind of, I guess personally, I felt not insulted, but I was like, just kind of, I don't know.
As if they were dumbing it down for the audience kind of thing.
It's kind of what I felt like, because a lot of shows do that. And, and I'm like,
I mean, like, different strokes for different folks. That's fine.
So,
I can see how, from your personal perspective.
Yeah,
that it would
I mean, I do
reaction.
not think that your opinion is invalid. I think it's totally fair if you felt that way.
Yeah.
For me, it was just, for me, it was a very, like, what the fuck was that movie with Matt Damon and Robin Williams?
Kyle,
not asking the right people.
You're asking the wrong folks.
This is very
I
important.
can hear you
Good
typing furiously.
It's Good Will Hunting. In Good Will Hunting, there's a moment in which like the character was abused as a child by his father, and there's a moment in which like it very much seems like Robin Williams is talking down to him and talking down to the audience, because he continuously says the same thing to the character. He says, it's not your fault that you were abused, and he just keeps repeating that it's not your fault. And the character's like, I know. He's like, no, I get it. And he's like, no, it's not your fault. And he's like, I know. And he's like, it's not your fault. And you can hear the irritation in his voice. He's like, I fucking get it, dude. Like, I'm not dumb. And he's like, no, it's not your fault. And it finally gets to him that like he's just refusing to accept it, and then he accepts it. And that's when he like breaks down and is able to heal. And that was kind of what that moment was between like Should I Say and Gin to me was that it's not your fault kind of thing. Like she's dead. There's nothing we can do about it, but we can accept this and move on.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
I'm sure
I
that's
get it
an
now.
apt comparison.
I'm sorry. I wanted to. I just wanted to mention it, but okay.
Bub, you're good.
Yeah.
Don't apologize. You fine.
I'm sure someone appreciates it that knows a lot more about movies than I do.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like,
I genuinely enjoyed this. Oh, and to sum up my third perspective is just like I didn't think it was an amazing beginning and a poor ending. Not an amazing beginning and just that when they got to Antarctica, it didn't feel as good to me, and I didn't feel the reverse either. That it was like it was a slow start and then it definitely hit with Antarctica. I felt like there was a lot of just rolling hills to it, where it was a lot of like really good strong emotional moments, and then other moments that I'm like, yeah, we're back in the slice of life, and then it was like, oh fuck, I'm crying again. but
fair.
it's like the roller coaster is doing that while still going up and like building to a crescendo.
sure. I mean, like, I personally felt like, again, the interaction between like Megumi and Tamaki was like real strong, and then like it was kind of followed by essentially the oh no, I lost my passport, let's eat some durians episode,
Hey,
which was like,
I'm
all
not
right,
gonna lie though,
it's some decent development. It was a cute, fun episode that had some decent stuff to it, but I was also like, can we go?
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that.
Are
one
we
either.
good?
So.
I will totally admit that any normal motherfucker will absolutely agree with you. But here's the reason why I enjoyed that episode. It's because
Give me your thesis,
Here
buddy.
we go.
it's very short. I have been outside the country, and I have run into a situation where I wasn't sure where my passport was. And it is the scariest fucking... That was a horror episode for me. I was fucking edge of my seat gripping like the armchair. I was like, oh my fucking gosh. I was like, quit eating the fucking durian, you motherfuckers. Get that passport. I was like terrified. I was like, I've been there.
Alright, that's fair.
Okay. Yeah, I can't dispute that.
No, super not.
I was
Don't lose
so
your
fucking
passport.
scared. I was
PSA,
so
don't
scared.
lose your passport. Jesus Christ.
Kyle's PSA brought to you by A Place Further Than the Universe.
Oh gosh. All right, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. It's probably my favorite show of the season. I think it usurped Violet Evergarden, but just barely.
See, this is tough for me because, like,
We don't even have to rate it, by the way. It's like
No, I'm not rating it. I'm just thinking, like, because I've been kind of tackling this in my head. I don't know if I like Place better or if I like Evergarden better, because I dislike aspects of both. And
that's fair, yeah.
And I also very much like aspects of both. But
Eurocamp just took my big spot, so I'm good.
I don't know. It's tough because I feel like my issues are so complex with both of those shows. They're about on the same level for me, I would say.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very close, but to me, it's probably like Eurocamp, and then A Place Further Than the Universe, and then Violet Evergarden.
Hey,
with the latter two very close together.
do you want to hear something funny though? Because we're not bringing up like Takagi or
Or like Sanrio Boys.
Sanrio Boys or a bunch of other ones. I would like to show you the number 3 highest rated anime of 2018 currently.
Is it Pop Team Epic?
In number 3, Yuru Camp. In number 2, Place Further Than the Universe. And in number 1, Violet Evergarden. According to AniChart, these are the top rated ones of 2018.
28.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. We've had some fucking club bangers to start off the year.
And I would like to point out that, like, Place Further Than the Universe is technically considered an adventure, according to AniChart, and I'm sure some other places.
I'm not a surprise.
It is an adventure.
But I would like to point out that there is right the fuck next to Violet Evergarden and Place Further Than the Universe, there's just this good old comfy show about some girls going camping, and it's the 3rd highest rated anime currently of the year.
Look, it knows what it wants to do. It does what it wants to do. It doesn't have any unnecessary baggage at all. It doesn't do any dumb, unnecessary shit. It's comfy as fuck. It's got good characters. It has a feel-good message. Like, it does everything right.
Can I ask
to me, anyway,
what the number 4 is?
Oh, fuck, man, I don't know. I just saw the
that's
number.
a good
I just saw
question,
the 3.
actually.
Here, hang on. Let me click on the little thing and see what it says.
just-
Okay. You want to take a guess real quick? Just quick guesses?
No.
Is it a sequel? Because I don't give a shit. Okay, I don't care then. All right, let's
Okay.
move on.
It's Overlord 2.
What the fuck?
Wait, hold on. Wait a
Okay,
minute.
hold on. Stop. We're
What?
talking
No,
about
no,
this.
no, hold on.
Changed my mind. Let's talk about this.
Wait a sec. Yeah, let's sit down for a minute here. What's happening?
Okay. So wait a second. Now let me make sure that you said this right. You said Overlord 2, right? That's what you said.
The 2nd season of Overlord.
What the fuck? Okay.
Here's the thing, though. Did you look at the chart that came out of that Crunchyroll put out of anime watched divided by state in the United States?
I didn't heavily look at it, but
Did you notice that over half the fucking states were Overlord 2?
let me break this to you. If you guys don't know anything about Overlord, I don't know anything about Overlord, and someone's probably gonna massacre me like later.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen like little bits and pieces of Overlord, like through just tertiary like clips and stuff.
The only thing I've
It's
seen
not
is
good.
a fucking Skeletor looking motherfucker.
It's
That's
not
it.
good. Like it just looks like you're a fantasy show that tries to like play an MMO trope, and then like it has
But
like
tries to play it straight instead of actually doing the MMO thing.
yeah,
Okay.
something like that, and it just doesn't seem like it doesn't. I've not seen it, so my frame of reference is low here, but the clips I've seen, it just hasn't like glorified any of its characters in this way that I'm just like that's would be something I'd want to watch, or that even be something that's halfway decent. It just seems generic.
I would also like to point out.
Come, my bone boys!
Oh my!
Raise the
fucking
undead
God.
army of the Overlord! Can you face me?
He-Man. I would also like to point out though that
It's getting a season 3, by the way.
oh really?
Of course
Okay.
it is.
I would like to point out that as far as fantasy goes, though, Matt, like on top of what you have heard, I also know for a fact that fantasy is your least favorite.
Yeah, so
genre.
I probably wouldn't have liked it anyway. See,
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. Take that with a grain of salt, but
I mean, but to be fair, like especially with a lot of recent fantasy shows, it is hard for them to stick the landing.
yeah,
In my opinion, personally.
It's difficult. You gotta like really, really make yourself unique, or you have to like just do an amazing job, and stick to like your Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones style kind of things. Where and
Some straight high fantasy shit.
Can I recommend something to any creators that might be listening? Can we stop throwing game mechanics in shows, like just for a little bit? Like,
Man, wouldn't it be cool?
we can take a break, like for a year.
Wouldn't
like,
it be cool?
I'm just saying.
Like, it's been going for a long time now.
Yeah.
A long time.
Just take a break.
It's okay to not anymore. You can let go.
And I'm not saying like those shows aren't necessarily good. I'm not saying that they are necessarily bad or anything like that either. I'm just saying that, oh my god, guys, like, we don't need 1 or 2 or 6 every season. Like,
I know, we get fucking shit like Death March Rhapsody this season. That has another Kirito-looking motherfucker in some goddamn fucking stupid MMO isekai shit that it's... God!
I put that more in the isekai category, which is kind of like a MMO adjacent.
Let's be honest. Yeah,
I know.
Isekai is basically VR without the VR glasses.
Yeah. So, like, and again, I'm kind of iffy on that because I know there's some that are good, but there's so many that are bad.
Well, there are some that are good, but those are very few and far between.
That's because there's a lot of
swim
isekai
through
shows.
the fucking trash heap.
That's because literally there's like 10 every season.
I know.
So
it's the worst.
Like, you're gonna get a lot more bad ones because there's more.
Anyway, don't add us. Whatever.
Yeah, don't at me. I don't care. Just
I actually have no strong opinions. It's odd. I have no strong opinions on this because I just don't watch that many isekai or fantasy shows.
I don't either.
It's not
even.
But
that's the thing. I don't like them on the market.
Well, it's not even a slight against them. It's just that, like, I try not to judge a show until I have at least seen a little bit of it, and I just have no input as far as this goes. I just haven't seen them.
So I judge shows a lot by their freaking.
Although I will say, like, one of the last ones that I saw was Dungeon, and that was a fucking mistake.
That's getting a second season as well.
It's already gotten a second
season.
No,
that's a spinoff. That's a spinoff.
I don't
that's
fucking
different.
care.
It's getting another season.
Because trash is going to get more seasons.
It's popular.
All right. So
all right,
we got mad. I'm so sorry. We were doing so well, and then we got mad.
Are there any other things y'all want to hit on before we get out of here?
Just as far as this past show, there's not anything that besides what we have talked about that I have finished.
Oh yeah, me.
And I can't think of anything that I would like really want to bring up. Pingu in the City, absolutely 10 out of 10. Haven't even seen it. That's 100%.
Okay, I thought, what happened to not rating shows before you see them?
Yeah, you dingus.
Does anybody? Because I know that we may be crucified if we don't talk about it.
I haven't watched it.
Sorry, no, I'm not talking about Pingu in the City. I'm talking about Pop Team Epic. Is that I had the weirdest experience where people
I love it a lot.
The weirdest experience, because I remember the only thing I heard about the show was during the first like 2 or 3 episodes had come out, and people hated this show.
So
and
here's
then
the thing.
Immediately within the next 2 weeks, I did not hear a single person say a damn thing negative about the show. They're like,
here's the thing.
It's great.
the first episode of Pop Team Epic is front loaded with a lot of referential humor.
Which, yeah, give or take, you either like it or you hate it.
Yeah. Yes. And beyond that, it's a lot of original sketches and such. A lot of sketch comedy.
I've seen some of those, including the live action ones, and it's
real
fucking
fun. Good.
Yeah.
I personally really enjoy that personal brand and style of humor. I'm enjoying it so far. I haven't finished it, which is a shame. But yeah, beyond the first... And even the first episode isn't terrible. But
it just relied a bit too heavily on the reference?
It's the weakest of them to me, which is, saying a lot because I still got some good laughs out of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it from what I've seen.
Okay.
So yeah, there's that. It has my stamp of approval.
Controversial topic of the season, Darling in the Franxx. Anybody finish that?
I had not caught up, so I'm about halfway through.
Okay. I am an episode behind, and I enjoy it. It is definitely problematic and has some shitty things to say about gender norms and relations and such like that, which is kind of a bummer considering it's a whole fucking show that revolves around this stuff. But hey, you know what? There's a whole second half of this show. It could get better. I don't know. I'm reserving my judgment.
It could get better as in, like, it's kind of not good? Or as in...
Oh, no. Like, I enjoy the show.
I'm trying to figure out what that translates to. Does that translate to it's like mediocre, but it has bad aspects, or is that like it's slightly good with bad? I'm trying to figure out what level
it's a pretty good show. I think it has a lot of very cool concepts. I just don't think that all of them are implemented as well as they could be, is all.
Okay.
So it's a good show with some bad aspects to it.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a little
so
more
far.
sense.
And again, they definitely have time to improve on that. I hope to God they do, because if I have another 12 episodes and, it shits the bed with it, I'm going to be real disappointed.
Oh shit, that's right. This is 2-core. I'm sorry, I totally forgot.
Yep.
Yep. I think that's about it for me, though.
I think that's about it that we could really say.
Yeah,
this season.
I would love to have finished more shows, but now here I am.
Yes,
I would have really have loved to go through more of like Mitsuboshi colors, but
what about Tonkatsu Ramens?
I got about a quarter or a third through that, and I really enjoyed what I watched. That good show.
I heard a lot of people saying some good things about it, low key.
It's a real fun show.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I hadn't gotten started on it, and you had mentioned some nice things. So I was just wondering if it was one that you'd recommend. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, again, I've only watched about 3 or 4 episodes, but what I've watched of it, real good shit. Big fan.
I don't think anyone has ever talked about after like episode 4 of Junji Ito, and that's not to say some comment about the quality of the show. I just personally have heard nothing of the show past that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's another one of those shows that I really wish I had got to watch more of, because I just love Junji Ito's work as it is. But for whatever, just for different reasons, for like shows taking certain priority over others, and just, real life shit, I haven't got around to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and besides that, I don't have anything to really add that I've not already said.
Pretty much.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We said a lot, so I guess we can just go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see everybody next time.
Yeah.
For some good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us, y'all.
Thanks.
Hope you found something that you liked.
I hope so.
Well, bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Hyung.
Oh, I hate this.
Thanks for listening. Hope you had fun and stuck with us to the end, and, can hear this. You can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebackloggers.com. Our intro-outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, and we'd love to hear from y'all either in the comments on our site or any feedback you want to leave us on whatever podcast platform you like. iTunes, SoundCloud, or, just yell it from a mountain or something. And as always, we're on Twitter at @the_backloggers, so come hang with us. We love to talk with y'all, and it's always a blast to hear your thoughts on everything, so don't be afraid at all to reach out in any way that's easiest for you. Thanks for listening. See you later.